It always surprises me. These things don't pick up when you're talking.
I can't silence.
They'll pick up when you're talking and you don't want them.
Yeah, yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, basically. She said that should take care of it.
It's for, stuff we do.
Zoned out.
Well, I like the idea, but what do we bought?
I mean, the date that we hired them to Tuesday, of course, because it's a special. They have to apply for grants, and that's not so just, you just say, there's,
They wanted to keep that because,
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But we'll just look whether or not we.
I know it's got to be voted on in September.
Just the idea is that we'll have a dramatic increase in our insurance, as everybody knows, almost $700 a month, not even. So,
Yeah.
it's work perfectly in the office.
But until the budget is approved in September.
well, the most important points are that, we're basically paying attention to cost of fine and the budget every. What is it?
Like automatically the internet.
Well,
Irrigation next year, once we get liability, you're talking about irrigation.
no, not with that. With the general perspective.
I know, like, you better talk to the general perception because they're full of shit.
Yes.
I think we're gonna do a special.
Right.
And what else is around
I did my part.
They said the same thing about $10. The boys, they get water accounts. Yeah, I know, I'm just trying
Yeah.
to get us back to the people who sit around, get something to play.
I sat down with a whole bunch of people, look,
He left.
Yeah. We can give you a quick answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Two letters.
Correct.
Stop.
We'll bring this meeting to order. We're starting with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors is scheduled for Friday, June 11th, 2021 at 9 a.m. at the Community Center, 3500 Edgewater Drive. Please silence or turn off your cell phones. Consent agenda, we need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Any comment?
Mr. President, I believe there is a correction there in the Zoom discussion. The minutes reflect that it was a consensus opinion. I don't believe you expressed an opinion. It was not unanimous because you did not express an opinion. So we need to correct that.
Any public comment? Okay, Chrissy?
Supervisor Phillips? Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Herrick?
Yes.
Supervisor Hoteling?
Yes.
President Gilpin?
Yes. Okay, this is the start of a public hearing, and who's gonna handle that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah, we've talked about the Terrega sock piping project. The cost to the public is going to be, if I recall correctly, is $1,000 per driveway connection to the street. That's what we're proposing as a special assessment for the people benefiting from that project. The plans and specifications should all be available at the district office. So once we adopt this, assuming this resolution gets adopted today, it will be published. This is the first public hearing, and then after the publication, we'll have another public hearing, and then we can move forward with the project and charge those special assessments.
That's correct, David. I believe we were going to give them what, 4 equal payments?
Yeah, two
Two equal payments.
2 weeks.
2 equal payments on an annual basis that will be billed along with their assessment.
Do they have the option of paying it all at once?
Yes.
So that's what this public hearing is about. So the next step is to move forward with that resolution.
Okay. Is there any comment from the board?
But we need a motion in a second, yeah, for the resolution
No, I'm saying, if we pass this one with the second public meeting.
at the next board meeting.
Okay, we need a motion, I guess.
So move.
Second. And then I have a question for clarification.
Okay. Any comment?
On the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, whereas it says to be paid in 4 annual installments, and the staff just clarified 2.
We can make that revision.
Well, okay, but
Or depends on what you want to do.
Yeah, it's immaterial to me. It is when I was drafting it, my recollection was 4, but if we want to make it 2, that's fine. So I guess the question is do we need to make it 2, Omar? Or does it matter?
No, it doesn't really matter to the district staff. Once again, if we go out longer, you're basically just financing for them over 4 years. Right now, it's proposed at 0% for 2 years, is what the initial discussion was, but if you want to go forward, we can go forward. There's no objection from staff.
so we're talking $1,000, so it would be $500 a year or $250 a year.
Which would be in addition to their assessment, so that's the same.
I don't have a problem with that, to keep it for.
And like I said, they've got the ability to pay it all up front if they want to. So
Yeah,
I'll big an accounting issue for you one way or the other,
It's needed.
but I think we should leave it 4.
any other comment? From the board?
Or it's fine with you.
Public comment? Hearing none?
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Herrick?
Yes.
Supervisor Hoteling?
Yes.
Supervisor Phillips?
Yes.
President Gilpin?
Yes. The action agenda, resolution number 2021-05, 21-13, a resolution of the Sun Lake of Sebring Improvement District to impose special assessments for capital improvements on certain properties. Well, I think we just did that, didn't we? Okay, never mind. B, resolution number 2021-05, 21-14, a resolution of the Sun Lake of Sebring Improvement District to obtain grant compliance assistance by piggybacking on an agreement between the city of Palm Coast and Guardian CRM Incorporated dated April 21st, 2021. Need a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, discussion for board members.
This is for us to get our grant money.
Correct.
That's enough.
Correct. We're piggybacking. This is the same firm that Spring Lake uses, and they will assist us in SRF funding as well as grant funding for the recreation area.
And I am on the call on the Zoom.
Correct, yes. It basically is an hourly rate, and what he will do is look at what we're trying to get done now and go back and say, this is available. This is what it'll cost you to get the forms filled out and get in line, in essence.
What period of time is this for? I didn't read it.
It's an annual thing.
So we have to read it every year?
We could. But it's a whole thing, so unless we give him work to do, then it doesn't cost us anything.
No, but, I mean, his rates were signing like.
Oh, I think it was 3 a year.
A year. Is that what it says?
So much an hour, depending on what he is, or if he has an assistant do it.
I understand, but if we're not happy with the services after a year,
We don't
we're
have to,
obligated or.
no. The only obligation is to pay him his hourly rate when we give him something to do.
Okay, so run me, just quickly, run me through the process. When we pass this budget, let's say there's a capital from there, possibly would qualify. So
Dan.
we have to wait till we pass the budget to talk to them?
Corbett's on the line.
I think Corbin's on the line, so you can ask him.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you, Pat, what's the question?
this is Corbin all day, who is the guy we will be working directly with.
Yes.
Right,
Asking the question.
right.
Sorry, I just
What,
walk us through the process. When, do we have to wait until we pass the budget before we communicate what we'd like you to do research on, if we do it now, or?
right now, you're only approving a base contract, a piggyback contract that has no value because it's based on work orders. So the hourly rates are just to support work orders. So you're approving the procurement today is all you're approving. What would have to happen is staff would pick projects that council, the board is interested in, ask for a proposal from us, a work order proposal from us for each project, and then that would have to come back. So that would be each one, depending on your procurement policy, either the manager approves it or the board has to approve each work order for each project.
What I think I heard was that when we identify things that we are interested in pursuing, regardless of whether we pass it or not, we could have them do
I can barely hear y'all.
evaluation.
If you speak into the microphone.
If I understood you correct, if we identify whether we may have it in the budget, it's not a past budget, but if we have an item that we're interested in, we could have you do a preliminary study to determine if grants would be available for that type of activity.
Correct.
And we would know upfront what it would cost us to go through that.
Yes, you would get a work order proposal to give you the whole picture.
Okay,
So we're not committing to anything today, he's committing, we're piggybacking on their contract, so much an hour, and then
And that's it.
yeah,
That's it.
we say we're interested in you looking at, for example, the meters. Can we get financing for that? Then we have to go and figure it out. He tells us how much it would cost to do it. Okay, I'm speaking for you, but I think that's correct.
Is that true?
No, I can't.
Okay, basically, I read the contract, that's the way I read it. It doesn't cost us anything unless we tell him to go do something for us.
That is correct. It doesn't cost you anything unless you approve a work order.
And, once we give you an assignment, so to speak, or a challenge, how long does it usually take you to come back to a company?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
We're interested in replacing all of our meters. We tell you now, go ahead now, what would it be, 30 days, 60 days? How long does it take you to get back to us?
Oh, a couple of weeks. I mean, if you ask for give me a project, then it'll take me a couple of weeks to get back to you. You know, probably the next agenda item, next available agenda.
Okay, so let's say you get back to us within a couple of weeks and we like what you tell us. What would the next step be?
To assign the approved work order, and then we would have deliverables in that work order. And we finish the work order, which would be the application. You know, so the work order, say the work order is a state revolving fund application for a wastewater treatment plant. The deliverable would be the application, and that would go on board agenda.
Well, so I got some of that. So basically, you do all the work, the legwork for us and the paperwork for us. Is that
correct?
Okay. When you come back to us, do you give us an approximation of how much additional the cost will be?
Yes, when you get an application, you'll have a total budget that encompasses everything to get to from beginning to end.
Okay, and you're payable based on what, at the end of the project, or how do we pay you? We pay you at the beginning?
You pay us along based on accomplishments.
Yeah, there's,
Like percentage of work done.
As we go along.
At the end of each step.
correct.
Correct.
Is there a certain percentage guideline that you would give us? If there's $1 million project, what would your fees be approximately? Is there a number that's available?
If it was let's take that state revolving fund loan. If that state revolving fund loan is about a $5 million loan for a new wastewater treatment plant, you're looking at spending about $25,000 up front and about 40 during the project, 35, 40. So I would say your cost for us would be about $50,000 to $60,000 over 2 or 3 years.
And if it's a $5 million
You've got application, you've got loan award agreement steps, and then you've got construction, engineering and construction. So we would be with you doing support, doing reports, doing your request for funds, doing everything that the grant or loan requires through the whole process from beginning to end.
They basically provide the expertise to guide us completely through the project from the day it starts till the day it finishes.
That's right up to closeout report.
So on this example of $6 million water treatment plant, our total cost would be in the neighborhood of $65,000.
Yes, sir. Over about 2 or 3 years.
And what would we expect the grant to be on a $6 million water treatment plant approximately?
For being that's if it's SRF, it's a loan, but it's a 0 interest rate loan. So it's like getting about $1 million or so grant of interest. If it's USDA, then it might be 50-50 grant, depending on your rates. If your rates are really low for the area and they need to come up, your rates will have to come up before they'll give you any grant money. So that kind of technical expertise is what we give you up front, so you can pick the right program for you. For example, that's the kind of stuff you'd be paying for.
Thank you. I got one last question. Have we ever done golf irrigation systems? Are there grants for that?
I'm sorry, say again.
golf irrigation systems, golf course irrigation systems.
If the wastewater is being treated to tertiary reuse water quality and is being sprayed on a golf course, then we can build, yes, we can build the irrigation system on the golf course to get rid of that reuse water.
That's a qualified yes. I think at this point in time, we need to approve this, and then we can sit down with Corbett and figure out what the project's going, and he can determine what he can help us with.
I was just curious.
And then one other clarification from a staff comment. As I read the contract at section 12, it's actually a 3-year contract with a 2-year renewal.
Yes.
That's correct, 3 years.
Unless either of us decide to cancel it under one of the other provisions.
Yes, you have termination for convenience in there.
Any other comment from the board? Public comment.
Good morning, Bill Norcross, resident. This grant compliance assistance program sounds like a good idea. I don't know if it's $25,000 for 3 years, charge $25,000
Based on the project.
It's just if we use on each project.
Well, it's an hourly fee too.
Yes.
I understand. I think it's a good idea. And if we can incorporate a grant for the upcoming irrigation system, would be really helpful to Southern Lake here. Thank you very much.
This is a lot more than just a golf course, so Bill, okay?
Understood.
Can you thank him or is he gone?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, sir, very much.
Have you voted on it?
You want to hear that or do that now?
Thank you.
Chrissy?
Supervisor Herrick,
Yes.
Supervisor Hoteling,
Yes.
Supervisor Phillips, Supervisor Brooks, President Gilpin.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Look forward to working.
Have an excellent day.
Thank you. Resolution number 2021-05, 21-15, a resolution of the Sun Lake and Sebring Improvement District to enter into a lease agreement with Firehouse Billboards LLC. I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Second, okay, any comment by the board? Or if we want to, I think we're having you come up first, okay?
Good morning. My name is Charlie Lawrence, and I'm the owner of Firehouse Digital Billboards. And I want to say thank you for considering my proposal. As you can see from the proposal, I put up quite a few digital billboards here in Highlands County. All the boards we have put up are still in operation. In January 2020, just before the pandemic, we sold 10 of our boards to a firm out of Miami. They continue to operate them. We are now looking for new viable locations to put up additional boards. I believe this location will be a win-win for both of us. Firehouse Digital Billboard will pay all the expenses to erect and maintain this billboard. Let me say these billboards are not inexpensive, either to build or to maintain. The billboard will be monitored on a continual basis with the use of cameras, computers, and the internet. We will take great pride in making sure all operations run smoothly. As our proposal indicates, we will put your ads up for Sun Lake on the boards, be it your restaurant, your golf course, or any other special events you may have. And just as a reminder, your restaurant has advertised on one of our boards over by Tanglewood before, so So I'm sure some of you are familiar with our service. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay, comments from the board?
One side's digital, the other side's not, correct?
We're anticipating doing that to begin with. We may put a digital on the backside. If we put a digital on the backside, we'll also give you guys a spot on that side as well.
So right now we get 1 out of 10 on the digital side.
Actually, you get 1.5 out of 10 unless we're sold out, and you get 1 out of 10. I'm gonna say about half the time we get sold out on, depending on the location, time of year, we get a little busier in our time here. But you're guaranteed 1 spot.
And as I understand it, you're looking for a long-term contract and we're contracting with you, but you could sell it and assign it to somebody else tomorrow and we wouldn't know who we'd be dealing with.
That would be correct, but they're still obligated by the contract to give you that spot, to give you that service. And you also have the ability to sell it to somebody else. So that works like this.
But if the new, I'm not sure how we correct the problem. We've had some problems with contracts in the past, so we want to be sure who we're dealing with. And I'm not sure what our recourse is if you assign a contract and they don't stand up to it.
Fulfill the contract, you on the backside of that, and you have to check with legal people, but you can always make it out. The fact of the matter is, and the reason the assignment's in there, this is a long-term contract, 25 years. And I'm just gonna guess and say most of them.
Yeah, I think they would be on something like that for the cost to put it in.
Yeah, it's not inexpensive, and it takes a long time to pay it off, so, and long story short, lesser term contracts with stuff. This isn't a telephone billboard like you see out there in a lot of places. This is a steel structure and message center on it, so.
Any other comments or questions?
Your only compensation to the district is expected to be the availability of that space. Is that correct? No financial cash, only.
You guys don't have to pay, we'll take care of it.
No, I understand. We don't have to pay anything, but you don't have to pay us anything either. You're just gonna give us that space on board.
That's correct. And to give you an idea of what those spaces run from, they're $795 to $995 per month. So that's our rate at those. So we will take care of it. We put the graphics up there and have it monitored all the time. You guys don't have to worry about it. I will say one other little thing though, and that is we are gonna have to do a little bit of cut a couple of the trees down in that area. So you'd be aware of that.
Couple what?
Trees.
Oh, trees have to come down.
Yeah, we want to get good visibility on both directions for both us and you guys and our other clients.
Okay,
Are we sure that the trees that need to be cut down are on our property and not conservation property?
Well, I think there's a conservation easement on that property. So I don't know that that will be any kind of a problem or an issue. I hope it won't be. But certainly we're not going to do anything that's not authorized.
anything else?
That's the first I've heard of trees coming down. I don't have any issue with it other than we'd have to make certain that what you're doing is approved.
Yeah.
But
I
that's
think
kind
it's
of,
mostly underbrush, and I'm not sure where the classification of the tree starts and the bush ends, and what the conservation part is, but we do want to get a clear shot of being able to, number one, install
I get it.
it, and then also see it.
David, should we check that out and make certain, I mean, I'm assuming that we're required to, I mean, you're gonna take it down, correct?
Yes, we'll do whatever, if we need to chop a couple trees down, we'll take care of the expense of that.
As long as it's authorized. So do you want us to get approval to do that or are you gonna do that?
believe it's your conservation easement, so if you can check into it and make sure that it's okay to do,
Okay,
that would be great.
if you can do that for us, Steve.
Yeah, I think part of one of the other issues is that we had a sign there before, but it's gone now. And so there's a license that's required, a state license for the billboard, and that's something that Firehouse is gonna take care of. So once that license is obtained, it'll give us some clear direction on what we can and can't do. But I'll check into it and see the conservation part.
So I guess you'd have to do it contingent on, and sign the lease contingent on it being approved then.
Yeah, I believe in the contract, it's based, there's a clause in there that says based on all of the permits being obtained correctly.
Correct.
So if you approve the contract and for some reason there's not a permit that's obtained, then it's a.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comment?
Morning.
Morning.
Robert Edo, living in Conceal. When I asked the gentleman, the success of having the billboards in other communities, how much has it transpired in helping the communities in Montero?
Did you hear that?
Yeah,
Montero, how successful has it helped other communities in Florida? Any idea
I'm not sure.
on revenue acquired to help the community? What's the percentage, is it 10%, 5%?
Generally, we don't do it with government agencies per se, and, but we do it with okay, so generally, we haven't done much with public agencies, but I am gonna say that the ones we've done here in Sebring, we've also donated time to different organizations, basically nonprofit organizations, or special events. So Sebring Firemen would be one of the organizations we donated to.
I'm just coming in the middle of it. Where is it going to be placed in Sunny Lakes? Is it going to be for the traffic coming from north to south to see it, or south?
Well, we hope both directions, and it's gonna be up by where those school buses are.
Right.
Right there off of the access road by 27. So there used to be a billboard there, a one-sided billboard. We want to make this two-sided if we can, so you can see from both directions. If we don't get an okay on the trees, it may turn out to be a one-sided. I don't think any trees have to come down for the one-sided, but there is a tree or two in the way on the reading it on the left-hand read heading north.
What's the board's feeling on this?
Well, we haven't voted on it yet, but he came to us with a proposal. It's not gonna cost us a thing, and we get some advertising out of it. So it's, to me, I mean, I can give you my opinion, it's not gonna be hurting someone like it all, if nothing else, save us maybe $900 a month and get some advertising, so.
Thank you. Okay.
But that's only me.
Hey, like I said, free advertisement, can't go
Yeah.
wrong.
But you'll find out pretty soon when we vote. Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
Bill Norcross, President. Everybody can hear me. I can't hear anybody back there. I'm sorry. I might have missed an item or two. Usually billboards are a good idea, but it's what they say in real estate, location. We have recently a couple of billboards put up by Pinecrest, and I think they're the appropriate area which channels the traffic to the restaurant and everything else. We had a situation last year, I believe, that there was a couple of billboards put up on the going
north on 27 leaving Avon Park, which is, to me, kind of really stupid because you're leaving the area. I think the appropriate place or a good location, I think you probably may have discussed it, is across the street from Wild Turkey. It used to be a billboard there, very functional, great location. Is that under consideration?
That's the one we're talking about.
All right, I couldn't hear it, I'm sorry. So I think generally a billboard is really good. The other question I had is, because it's electronic, do we have any way that they have emergency notifications on that? Can it be changed quickly?
Yes, we can do, we've done DMAC, notices before for missing people, missing children, things like that. If you contact us, depending on the time of day, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm not gonna answer your phone, but.
I mean, we were very prone to hurricanes, emergency fires and things like that.
It's probably not gonna be that quick because we have to design the graphics to put them up there. If you have a standard graphic of some sort that you want us to hold in our computer to put up on emergency, we can. But if it has to be custom.
Wait a minute, I don't think it requires graphics. Every now and then we have a test for the emergency system it comes on your TV, which is a lot of fun if you're in the middle of a program.
Right.
But you can't just put something up that something is happening.
Yeah, if we have an operator available at that time, but again, we don't keep somebody on board.
Well, I understand.
24/7. So during normal business hours, yeah, you can call up and say, hey, we'd like to put this up. We still have to type it out and then transfer it to the billboard. So we do some type of a graphic on our computer or laptop, and then we transfer it through the internet to the billboard, and it usually takes about 2 or 3 rotations, which is 2 or 3 minutes in order to get it up there.
I was just wondering if you had that capability.
Yes, we do.
Okay, fine,
We're
thank you.
internet connected, and we can change these things literally, I want to say within an hour if you want to contract.
Okay, it's because we have signs on the highways if there's traffic problems or accidents and things like that. So, I'm talking about a serious emergency. So you have that capability, I think, that would satisfy the community a little bit better. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, Chrissy?
I think we need a little more board discussion before we have to vote.
Okay, we're gonna have a little board discussion. He wants to talk some more.
I'm concerned about entering into this long-term contract. I don't think we've done enough due diligence to know what other opportunities there might be with that space. We're entering into a long-term contract, if we approve this, that it will tie up that piece of property for a long time. And we don't know, maybe somebody else will pay us $10,000 a year for the use of that property. And I think before we enter a long-term contract that he can get out of tomorrow, that we can't get out of for 25 years, I think we need a little more due diligence.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Chrissy?
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks,
Yeah.
Supervisor Herrick,
Yes.
Supervisor Hoteling,
No,
President Gilpin.
Yes. Okay, add-on items. Okay.
There's an add-on item that been requested that we add additional discussion about the Zoom meeting that we had last week.
Okay. Who wants to start the conversation?
And I was out of the state. I was home because of a family emergency. And I believe that, this technology is available to us today. The whole world operated on either Zoom or some other kind of platform from the beginning of the pandemic. Businesses ran their businesses, schools ran their schools. While I was required to be where I was at, and I don't have any qualms about my needing to be where I was, but I did have available time where I could have participated in the meeting. And I, in fact, attended both Zoom meetings, but I couldn't participate. I believe with the technology we have today that there's no reason why I shouldn't have been able to participate in the discussions and vote on the matters that were there in place. It's a platform that is being utilized throughout the country and throughout the world to conduct business. If we need to limit the number of times which individual can use it, I'm okay with that, but I think it needs to be something that is available to us in the event of a substantial reason for us to not be here. And I just think it's, if it hadn't, it's a proven platform that works. So why not utilize it for those type of situations where I could have participated, I couldn't because of a requirement that we have that you have to be present. I still would have been present, just so I would have been present by artificial means, if you will. So that's my opinion.
And I would tack onto that. I was absent the same last meeting. And I was in Michigan because the day after the meeting, I was burying my mother. Some things you can control, some things you can't control. In September, I've got a granddaughter who's decided to get married. That'll keep me from making a meeting. And in addition to that, I'm semi-retired. I still write a weekly column for a newspaper in California and scheduled to go back for a few weeks every year. Usually that could result in the loss of one meeting because of COVID. I couldn't go back last year, so I've got a longer trip that will have me missing 2 meetings in the coming schedule. Would have been 3 if we canceled one of them. I'm fully committed to participating and being a part of it, even though in California, a Zoom meeting will be at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'll be there for it. I will do the work because we do a lot of the reports and staff communication via internet. Being away doesn't keep that from happening. So I would agree. The ideal is that every supervisor is here present, but we're busy people. The technology is there. And I certainly would have liked to have been able to comment on some of the items that I heard at the meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I would certainly like to participate in the meetings that I'll be away for later this year. I do take this very seriously and look forward to continuing to work with Sun Lake. So I would support the Zoom process that is, as Mr. Herrick said, a proven technology.
Any other comment?
First, I really thought we had a consensus last meeting. Did we not? What, did I miss that?
There were 3 people here, 2 of them commented, 1 did not.
We didn't come in at all? You didn't say anything?
No, I didn't. After you two, there was 3 of us, so it was quite apparent right away that 2 of you wanted, so I didn't make any comment. It didn't make any difference what my comment was, it was gonna pass.
I'm sorry, people have illnesses or family emergencies. That's a fact of life. If you have to miss a meeting because of a family illness, or miss a several meetings because of family illness, that's fine. That's life. That's why there's 5 of us. board can handle it. It starts, I mean, maybe I don't feel well, I can have a bed tomorrow morning, I don't feel well, I'm not gonna go to the board meeting, I'll do it on Zoom. I mean, where are we gonna stop this? So if you have to miss a meeting, you're gonna miss a meeting. If you're gonna miss several meetings, and I, not personally, because you have other obligations, that's wrong. You signed up for the board. You shouldn't have signed up for the board if you're gonna have other obligations that that are gonna take you away from the board. Your mother passing away, I'm sorry to hear that, by the way, but that's a good reason not to be here, and there's nothing wrong with that. But because you have an agreement out in California, that's gonna keep you away from board meetings, that's your problem. I don't wanna have to deal with it. You should be at these meetings. If you can't be at these meetings, I think you gotta make a decision what you wanna do. I think doing Zoom, one, is very difficult to begin with. As far as somebody asking a question, getting it up on the screen, there's technical problems, blah, blah, blah. Plus the bylaws say you don't do it. And that's what I thought we talked on last time, about the bylaws and not changing them. And I thought it was an end of a conversation. So I would have to say, I would lean against it. I understand there are reasons to miss meetings, and that's fine. That's what it is. But not to change the policies because of it.
I agree with that statement.
I would suggest that the policy was made at the time when the technology didn't support the action that we're talking about. We collectively attended a meeting as Zoom participants because of the pandemic.
That was the only alternative we had. You either do that or it was a meeting.
There was.
Correct.
But it's still a viable technology that is available. And
That
as long,
doesn't mean that we have to deploy that technology.
no, but
Can I suggest an alternative?
Just a
The,
minute, Neil, we'll let everybody talk first and then we'll go to that, okay? Anything else, Matt?
I think that this is a voluntary decision and that this is something that we want to do and we're passionate about, or we shouldn't be here. And
ma'am,
let me finish.
go ahead.
All of us have outside lives. I drove home last night and arrived at my house at 5 minutes after 11, so I could be at this meeting. I have to get in my car and drive back to attend a family function. That's very important. I've got 2 granddaughters graduating, but I did this because this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I said I would be, not on Zoom. And what is to prevent us from having, like you said, during the pandemic, Zoom meetings when nobody shows up. And the people come to listen to us and there's nobody here. We're gonna do it on Zoom.
We do it on Zoom now for our meetings.
Like,
The public watches us and hears what, or they're hearing what we say at every meeting via Zoom. Or 6 weeks, but I live over 1,200 miles away. I can't drive back for a meeting.
but you only miss one,
I missed 2,
2.
and I attended both of them.
But your circumstances were unusual and nobody expected you to be. I mean, I don't think.
No, but what I'm saying is that the time was available for me to attend. I attended the meeting, I heard what was going on, but I could not participate. And I think that's, the bylaw says that this you have to be present. The bylaw was put together at a time when this type of technology didn't have a place. And I think there is a certain place for it. Now, I'm not saying that if you want to say that you can only attend 3 meetings via Zoom or other platforms, I'm fine with that. But I still think it's a technology that's available and we ought to be utilizing it for those circumstances when you can attend, but you can't be here in person.
I don't know how you can put a number on it. I just don't say it.
Well,
Somebody's always gonna come up with a good excuse. Well, I know I missed 2, but this one I had. You just opened up a can of worms. I don't think it's right. There's 5 people on the board. If 3 are present, they can make a vote, they can decide something. That's how we're set up. So I don't understand why we're even having this conversation. Especially since last meeting, we had it and we decided on it.
I just want to say, let me voice my opinion. It's kind of tough for me to have an opinion either way, but I do think when we sign up to be a supervisor, there's an obligation. And this is not the Chamber of Commerce. This is not the PTO. This is not the golf committee. When we decide to run for this office, it takes some sacrifice. And a responsibility goes along with that. I think last week when the vote was there, we had no alternative because that's our rules right now. Now, if 3 of us, if there's 3 here that want to change those rules and want to make it different, then we ought to come up with some alternatives. And maybe it sounds like my cohort here has some ideas, but we have no choice right now. And I had no choice last week. When there's 3 of us here and 2 want to do something and said, we want to keep it the same, we keep it the same, no questions asked. So what we need to do is come up with a solution, and we should excuse stuff for desks and stuff that's important like that. But in my mind, we had also a conversation last week about cause with our lawyer. And I looked at, you look up the word cause, and my God, our lawyer told us cause was a felony. Well, it is, but it's also a whole bunch of other things. So I'll just read you one thing here when I looked it up. It says, for cause means a determination by the committee as defined herein, that there has been a willful and continuing failure of an eligible officer to perform substantially his duties and responsibilities, other than a result of eligible officer's death or disability, and if in the judgment of the committee, such willful and continuing failure may be cured by an eligible officer, that such failure has been cured by eligible officer within 10 business days after written notice of such was given to the eligible officer of misconduct. I have a problem with it. I think we certainly should excuse everybody that has to go to a death. Yeah, but there also should be something in there, because I don't want to see somebody get elected to the supervisors and miss 4 or 5 meetings a year because of a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, so I would be in favor of lifting the Zoom only regulations, only if we could come up with a process that there's a certain amount of meetings that we can miss that are not, and I'm not talking about a death like in Craig's case or in Neil's one case. That should be excusable, and I'm not trying to be crazy about this, but I don't like the idea that the new world thinks Zoom is okay. I mean, we just had a guy here, I can understand about half what he said. It's not a good way to do business. And I would love to have us work something out that we could do something in the case of Neil and Craig in these 2 instances. And I'm willing to listen, but we have to do something to get into the 21st century and also be fair about what we're doing, and it just comes to each individual person. If I was sick and could not come to meetings on a regular basis, I'm speaking for myself, I would resign. And that's me, but I'm not asking Ray to be that way, or Craig to be that way, or Beverly to be that way. And I would do it even if my life got messed up. So we can talk about it more, but right now, we can't do anything unless we change the bylaws that we have. Okay, so we can just open it back up for more discussion.
The alternative I would suggest as a trial, the policy and board bylaws do allow a suspension. So if we suspended the rule and allowed Zoom for the month of June, it would give us a 2-meeting trial to determine whether or not it's a viable option going forward, and we could discuss it again in July. But that would,
No.
I understood you were gonna say no, Ray, but I'm just saying, hear me
Why
out.
did you pick them up in June?
Because it's the next month and it would give
He's
us,
not gonna be here.
it would give us a
He's
live,
not gonna be here.
I'm not going to be here, and it would give us a live trial of the system. Can I finish my comments? I feel like every one of the board members here takes their role very seriously, participates fully, and wants to be here. We all have various obligations. I understand your frustration that one of my obligations is in California and takes me away for a meeting or two a year. A meeting or two a year, I don't have a problem with. This year, I had family obligations that took me away in May and are taking me away again in September. I don't feel that should keep me from participating. I would like to participate fully, including in the meetings as well as all the preparation for the meetings. And we have the technology, and your insistence that we be here publicly is what is preventing me from participating fully, when I'm fully willing to participate fully.
You know, I don't know what to say to that. Why do you ask to change the rules to fit you? That's what you're asking.
No, I'm asking us to change the rules to fit the future, and we can test the technology in June, because I will be away and can participate via Zoom. All of us may have things to take us out of town from time to time. That shouldn't keep us from participating.
We've already canceled the July meeting, because 4 of you guys, or 3 of you guys, had other obligations. Come on, it's gonna be a joke.
If you want to allow Zoom meetings, I'm happy to participate in that July meeting that was canceled.
That would have made five. If we had the July meeting, which you couldn't attend that either. I mean, it's just, I don't see changing the rules because there's certain problems with certain individuals. I just don't. The rules are there for a reason.
Any other comment by the board? Or any other suggestions?
I think at this point in time, it is policy. The only way to change that policy would be by a motion from a supervisor, seconded and then duly passed. So we can talk, or we can do something about it, or we can bring it to a halt. It's up to you. If I understood correctly, David.
Correct. The current policy is that you cannot appear by electronic means. So the board has the ability to suspend that policy. If someone wants to make a motion, that's what would have to happen.
I move to suspend that policy for the month of June.
Second, if we're going to move forward.
I'm not gonna second it, Neil, because we don't have the votes.
but I just think it's amazing to me that our schools are being run via Zoom.
Be sure and use your microphone. There are people listening.
I said I'm not going to second it because we don't have number of people that are going to vote for it. But I find it discouraging that when we have technology that is being used to teach our kids in schools, and businesses are running by Zoom, and we're saying the technology is not good enough because you can't hear it, I think it's ludicrous because the fact is, we just haven't been using it the way it's supposed to be used. Obviously, it's not going to be accepted. It's just what I had to say, and that's all.
All right, no second the motion dies, so we move forward.
Is, I want to continue just a little bit, Scott, you come up? Chris, I'm sorry. Could you come up there? This is public comment.
Yes, sir.
What you, the commissioner do about the,
We have the ability, if a commissioner is not able to attend a meeting, that they can call in and be heard voice-wise, but not video. So we do have that availability as a board. Does it happen very often? No, but there's times that it does happen, yes. But, boards are set up for a quorum. There's 5 of us on the commission, there's 5 of y'all. It takes 3 to conduct business. It takes 3 to hold a meeting. Without a quorum, you can't have a meeting. So your board can function with 3 of your supervisors present. So you can conduct business with 3 people present during your meeting. It is optional, I believe, that if you want to allow them to call in, you can have them call in and participate in the meeting, but it's not required. You're just required by law to have a quorum, and that would require 3 of you, and you can conduct business that way. So we don't do the Zoom thing as far as if a commissioner is not available, they can call in and, audio wise, voice only. That's how we handle it.
okay, and do you have a particular amount of, I know your pay schedule and everything's different than ours, but
Yes, oh yeah.
do you have a number you can miss? Or,
No, I would have to look, but as far as how it reads for a county commissioner, if they miss repeated meetings. I mean, as an elected official, as far as our capacity, the only person that can remove a county commissioner from office is the governor. So if somebody was to petition the governor for lack of participation, the governor could make a determination, if the commissioner misses 5 meetings in a row and can't get in touch with them or what have you, and is not participating and keeping up in his duties representing his or her district, then certainly somebody could petition the governor to ask for that commissioner to be removed and replaced. Okay. As far as supervisors, I was a supervisor on the Soil and Water Conservation District. So I understand you go through a lot of the same process with supervisor elections. Understand you're in a volunteer position. And that's many reasons why you probably don't have a lot of people that at times have run for these type of seats. So, certainly situations come up throughout the year for people, deaths in family or what have you. And, I'm for one, if we have a fellow commissioner that has something that they cannot attend a meeting, as long as something that's not becoming a habit, then personally, I don't see an issue with it. It's not a habit if you can't get in touch with them, if you're not able to communicate with them or what have you. I know supervisors, and you're bound by sunshine law, you're not able to talk with each other, but if staff hasn't been able to communicate with them or what have you, then that could be a problem that the board would make a decision on seeing if the supervisor could be replaced. But as far as the county goes, we have the ability for that commissioner to call in voice-wise, but not on a Zoom type of call.
okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
Bill Norquist, President. Years ago, we had several call-in
type of thing. So somebody would go up to Massachusetts and it would be a phone conversation and it was very disruptive and it was incoherent and a line went down, the telephone operator couldn't reconnect. It just was a problem. But I agree with Greg that the technology has increased. This Zoom deal is very interesting. We have national TV where they have remote sites, and the conversation is not really disruptive. It makes a lot of sense. So you don't want to have a situation where you want to use Zoom without special guidelines. And I understand that, and I think we all in the community, these three people here, plus relatives, that I think that would fall within the guidelines. But, just to say somebody is going on vacation, or they have maybe some other reason. But I think it has to be, I think it would be a good idea to have a temporary suspension on the rules for using Zoom and see how it really works out to make sure that you can understand what's going on. Like Mike has explained, he didn't understand what the fellow was talking about half the time. Couldn't hear him. I understand that. Maybe with the definite improvements here that this use of Zoom would be more functional. And as a public, I'd rather see some 5 faces than 3. So that vote could be approved. You'd have a legitimate quote. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I totally agree with the last speaker.
Okay.
I think it's a good thing. It can work. It works effectively in school systems and businesses. Let's give it a try here. Let's work on getting somebody who knows how to do the audiovisual possibly a little better, and it'll be a benefit for everybody. Let's not point fingers at this, that. Let's don't give up on things that could be advantage, okay?
Sally?
Sally Sunderland, resident. How did Joe Branson communicate with you guys while he was on board? He was communicating all the time by phone. At a meeting.
No, Joe missed right before he died his 3rd meeting.
He attended by Zoom.
But he attended sometimes here physically, which he probably should have been home, but
Well, I understand that. I understand that he was quite ill, but he would call in and talk during the meeting.
Yes, he did.
one time he did, I know that.
Joe called in.
Yes,
Yes. Numerous times.
On Zoom.
Okay,
Just for informational purposes, my recollection is that when Mr. Branson called in, we were still under the governor's COVID guidelines and was allowed that.
okay. Go ahead.
Again, I'm Charlie Lorenz, I'm also on the Sebring City Council. And so this is something that all the government agencies are gonna have to go through. I find it very interesting discussion on it, first of all. One possible solution, and I'm gonna just throw it out there, is maybe a compromise, would be to allow a certain number of meetings per year that somebody could zoom in on and give their opinions, but because they're not here, then they wouldn't have a right to vote. So that would encourage people to come if they want to vote. But at least you can get their opinions, the public could get their opinions on it through Zoom. And probably 5 years down the road, I think we're gonna look back at this and there's gonna be a lot of the Zoom stuff. Pandemic brought it around, technology has increased a lot, so I think it's gonna get more and more used. A lot of businesses are using it. But to encourage the supervisors to come and just let them express their opinion on Zoom, but they don't get to vote. So that's just a compromise I wanted to suggest.
I mean,
And just to clarify, this policy came into effect basically because of the situation that Mr. Norcross described back at a different board. There was a supervisor that wanted to appear by phone. He appeared by phone. It was so disruptive that they decided to enact this policy. This policy hasn't been around forever. This policy was put into place because of this disruptiveness of that situation.
Correct.
And I just want to reiterate that I asked Neil or whoever wants, I'm not opposed to doing something, but I suggest a policy. I don't want to just try something. If we can get 3 supervisors who want to change the policy that I think is fair, I'd listen. But the way, just to say, I want to do it in June, I can't support that deal. But again, you know, I want to get my Charles in the 21st century, but I need a policy. I need something that we can all do and the majority of the board supports, and that's, okay, that's.
We had a motion passed, it was not second. So unless anybody else has got a motion, another motion, I think we're done.
We're still in discussion. So we sat and listened to a lot of people talk a lot of times, so, okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay, petitions and communication.
None.
Staff reports.
Good morning, supervisors. I hopefully have a brief update for you. On the maintenance side, I have communicated to you, I'm sure most of you have seen that the clumps of rye that were on the turtle run collars have been sprayed out. I'm sure if you've been out there, you're probably satisfied with the way that product is right now. The new practice area, kind of behind the clubhouse, adjacent to the putting green, is almost roughed in. It's pretty well roughed in. If anybody wants to go take a look, I will gladly walk over there with you and kind of paint the picture for you if you'd like to. We should start the sodding and sprigging. They're gonna do a little bit of both, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. We'll see that start so we can get it to grow in here this summer. We're gonna start a more aggressive post-emergent program to spray out some goosegrass, bull past column, and some other weed pressure that we have out there. As you're aware, the board is aware that Earl is leaving for another position. I did want to update the board that Jimmy Murphy, who most of you have met, has accepted the position. He should arrive here on property the first week of June, so he's going to be here very soon. At that time, me, him, and our regional team will get together and we'll start working on some projects and getting together of what we want to do in the future. On the golf side, based on the board's feedback, we will be starting to ride 2 people on a cart starting on June 1st. It will be mandatory. I'm sure there will be some feedback with that, but we'll do the best we can to work through that situation. The Sertoma Golf Tour, it will be kicking off tomorrow. They have their annual adult child tournament. That starts tomorrow, and then they'll start their normal junior tour that travels through all the clubs here in the county. We've been in talks with Weber University to host a couple golf tournaments, possibly a fall event, a spring event. That first opportunity is actually coming up here in June, if they can get the participation off the ground. So we're looking forward to that. Also, I believe the board is aware that Tom Brownis has taken a position in Sarasota. Tom spent 4 years at the club as an assistant. He's a big asset to our operation. We're going to miss him, but we wish him the best of luck as he furthers his career. That's pretty typical with assistant professionals. it wouldn't be good for me or Andy to have a lifelong assistant professional, or we wouldn't be doing them any justice if we weren't helping them further their career. So we're gonna miss him, but we wish him the best of luck, and I'm sure we'll be in contact with him throughout his career. The restaurant side, things are definitely slowing down. We've started to adjust, our labor footprint accordingly. We will be starting our new hours of operation in June. That is based on the board's feedback. Basically, we're gonna keep Wednesday through Saturday the same. The only thing that really is gonna move is the fish and chips night. We'll move from Tuesday to Friday. We're gonna start some of our programming. We'll be bringing back trivia starting June 1st. We're gonna have some date nights, some dinner and dancing. So we're gonna do everything we can to keep our revenue inflow coming. Just another update on Mother's Day, we had 343 guests for the buffet, which bring in over $9,500 in revenue. Something very exciting, we have 3 weddings on the books for June and July. The largest being 100 people, which is the largest one we've seen. We've had a couple small ones. It's very exciting to see some of that type of business start to come back. It's obviously not at 100%. But that is definitely going to be a vital part of our operation going into next season. So hopefully that's a sign of good things to come as we try to get back to normal. Let's see. Just update the board on membership. Last thing I got, we are right around the $1 million mark for membership. The target was $1,040,000. So that puts us at about 96% of what we budgeted for the year. So we still have a little bit of time to sneak up on that. I don't know if we'll quite reach there, but just want to let you know that we're looking at a marginal miss as far as membership goes. Now, when we put our budget together last year, we really didn't put COVID guidelines in there based on our budget. We assumed at that time, which was about this time last year, that we were hoping to be back to 100% in the fall. Obviously, that didn't happen. So based on that, I'm very happy that we're within 4% of our goal. So that's all I have for today. If you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I got just a few. Well, based on what you said, Audible, have there been any fallout? Have you seen any bump in some memberships or anything from their posting?
Well, it's currently still open. It doesn't close, I think, till next week. So I think next week is their last week. With that said, we haven't seen any membership increases in this time. I believe they have some groups that would play there during the summer, some organized groups. And we have one that has actually committed to play with us over the summer. It's a little early to suggest that we're going to gain any memberships from that. I think if we did, it would be marginal.
Why are you moving chips and fish?
So Tuesday nights, we're actually going to be closed for dinner Monday and Tuesday. So being closed on Tuesday, we would not be able to do the fish and chips. So we moved that one to Friday. And typically in the summer, we don't do our prime rib special in the summer just because the volume's so low, it doesn't make sense. So we're going to replace the prime rib over the summer for the fish and chips, and prime rib typically comes back October 1st.
But pub menu is still available on Tuesdays, correct?
So in that sense, we'll be operating the normal menu for lunch, and we're actually going to implement some cold sandwiches in the hot dog roller on Monday afternoons and Tuesday afternoons. The pub menu will be available Sunday for lunch. The reason why that is if we go to cold sandwiches and hot dogs, which is what we've done in the past, on Mondays, we can still take care of the guests that are there later on in the day, but we can also reduce our labor footprint.
Did we know that you were eliminating pub menu on Mondays and Tuesdays?
We had that in the board discussion about a month ago, and the only thing that the board suggested was that we did not move the burger night, which we had suggested at that time, so we kept it open on Wednesdays.
I don't remember it. All right.
I'm pretty sure we did talk about that and changed, they were gonna close on Wednesday night and move the burgers.
Correct.
And we said, don't mess with a good thing.
So we kept that,
That was the burger conversation. Just a minor thing, that bathroom on Circle 14, the men's bathroom, in a month without lights, no hurry.
I was unaware of that. I can get that taken care of.
I was talking. Also, if the parking is going to affect June 1, today being the 19th, 20th, whatever it is, don't you think you're going to tell somebody?
Yeah, there will be more communication with that. We're gonna have several communications going on next week in regards to
Let's
this.
not wait for the last minute. You know they're going to be upset. Some people will be upset with you. It's better to get it out, get it over. Don't you think?
Yes, sir.
And the last thing, on the private street, I just thought about this last night. You're gonna recommend that people use their own balls, correct? Or not? I'm sorry.
I would assume they would.
Okay, well, what happens when they go to collect them? It's a firing rate.
It's not gonna be, we're not gonna be looking at a driving range situation there. Hopefully folks
If you have
can
two or three
be,
guys hitting 60-yard chips,
right,
you can't really go get them.
right. And the same situation would occur over in the other situation that we currently have. Most folks, when they're chipping and pitching, are gonna wanna use their own balls just because it's more realistic to what they're playing on the course as opposed to a range ball. We can do it either way. I would assume that even if we put range balls there, they're gonna wanna chip and pitch with their own ball. That would be my personal preference.
I know, but
I'm okay with doing it either way.
I'm only bringing it to your attention because I don't think anybody thought about it. We all had to think about it because we don't want anybody getting hit.
Yeah, and then there's always, a situation can arise in any particular fashion on that. Hopefully, you would assume that folks would have good etiquette and they would be able to work around that. It's not a driving range, so folks should not be firing down range. Everybody should have good etiquette and work around each other. That would be what I envision would happen. I don't think you're gonna have 50 guys all lighting up the green down there while there's somebody trying to pick up balls.
If you had more than one, they're going to have to go get the balls. That's all.
Right, and we're talking in a short range situation, we're not talking at 150 yards, we're talking 20 yards. So hopefully people can be respectful in a small area as far as chipping goes. But the same situation arrived in our regular situation. We can put range balls over there. I don't have an issue. I just feel that people are gonna
All I'm telling
pick
you
up the
is
balls
that
anyway. Right.
take a look at it.
No, and we can go over there and have a discussion with it, but I think even if we put our own range balls there, and they're still gonna go move them and they're still gonna have it. People should have good enough etiquette. You see it at any practice area that, obviously if somebody's in a certain position, you're not restricted to where you can be. You can either go chip in a direction where you're not firing at somebody, which typically happens. I don't envision it's gonna be a large problem where there's gonna be crossfire in a short game area.
Let me be clear, there's no food on Monday and Tuesday nights.
After 3:30, typically what we'll do, and we've done it the past couple summers, we will have cold sandwiches and we're gonna have the hot dog roller there, so you can have the option of those too. That is how we've operated the last couple summers in particular.
You're gonna able to get fries with alcohol.
The idea is that we will not be paying somebody to be in the kitchen.
So no fries.
There will be no chef.
You can get a bag of potato chips. I continue to challenge, how can we have a restaurant that doesn't serve, I mean, I know you don't have the traffic, but how is it that Cody's can pack them in every single night and they're waiting at the door to get in? And it's got nothing but picnic tables to sit at. You can't hear anything in there, but yet they have them in there every single night, and we can't get any kind of traffic through ours.
Well, I feel like our traffic has
It's
been
not
already
improved.
I feel, you haven't seen the budgeted numbers from last month, but we were within $3,000 of our
A
budget.
very low budget. And as far as riding in the car, mandatory June 1, you're gonna have pushback. You're definitely gonna have pushback. If I don't know the person and I don't know where he came from, I ain't riding with him, period. If that means I gotta give up my golf, I'll give up the golf.
That decision was made by them.
I know what it was made by. was that I wasn't here. But I'll buy that, but I'm not gonna ride with somebody I don't know.
Anything else?
Yeah, I do, just two quick comments. I talked to a couple people about the writing in the cards. And of course, I thought it was gonna be May 1st. I guess that didn't, I mean, it didn't take me long to drive along the streets to see that when there's 3 and 4 carts in a foursome, that it didn't work. But they said nobody said anything to them. Did we?
Yeah.
Were we telling our members that we want them to?
The direction for May 1st was that we were going to encourage 2 people in the car.
Yeah, but we weren't encouraging, I don't think.
Yeah, we were, but.
Okay.
But that was the direction, was to encourage. And
Okay.
the direction, the language is a little stronger this time, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And again, I'll just say, I don't know much about the operations. I can just look at the success, and I'm not involved in when you're open and when that, but I still stand firm that this board has one mission, is to try to get the kitchen up and running. I don't wanna have to make you change what you feel is right and wrong. My job is to look at the bottom line. And if it's not there, so I'm glad you finally made a stand, maybe on June 1st, but that's what we pay you to do. We're not here to tell you to have French fries, I don't think, but if it's not working, we're here to find somebody else. And it's really simple, and that's not a threat, that's not nothing, but I want you to succeed, I really do. So I hope this works out for you, and just do what the best you think it is. So, okay.
And I think Mr. Herrick's comment was in regards to the restaurant, was it's really hard to build a restaurant clientele if 2 nights out of the week, you don't have anything other than cold sandwiches and hot dogs. I know my first experience with Island View was so-so. My next experience was thinking I was going to join my son and daughter-in-law for Sunday brunch in the club, and got there, this was, 4 years ago, and all they had on Sunday was hot dogs. And obviously we went somewhere else. It didn't make me want to come back to Island View anyway. Now, my last few experiences have been better, but it's really hard to build clientele without a regular business. And I understand you're trying to balance the fact that we want you to make budget, and labor is hard to justify when there isn't business, but it is the chicken and egg. I mean, without a solid regular business, you're never gonna have a solid regular clientele.
I don't know, it'd probably be good if we give them one message. We got one guy saying, I'm proud of you, you cut the expenses. And then on the other hand, we're saying, spend more money if you have to keep the place open. I think we got to fine tune our direction. I'm not sure how to.
You have 5 supervisors and 5 different opinions, I guess. And you're right, they are getting mixed messages.
And I really believe that it's up to them, that's what we're paying them to do, is manage it. Anybody else?
Just real quick, just want to update you guys on construction permits. So we issued number 49 yesterday, so we're starting to see a lot more. We have 2 pending for commercial units, so there's going to be a 3-office medical office building going up on Frontage Road next to Heartland National Bank. So that's coming to fruition, and we also just had the opening of Turn 2 Brewery, so that one's finally CO'd, open for business. So we're starting to see commercial and residential. There hasn't been any slow in pace on that, so just wanted to update you on how many number of construction permits been issued, and I'm sure we'll have some pretty good conversation as we go through the budget conversations today.
Omar, did you say 49?
49,
Okay.
right? So we're on pace. Once again, we're not even halfway through the year yet. Anyway, calendar year is what we're tracking them on, and we're on pace to get 100. We're budgeting for like 80, so we're on pace or exceeding pace right now, so.
Okay, and yesterday I drove into Turkey.
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't know it. I just thought I'd drive back there just to see how it's going. And it's just a brewery, right?
Sure.
Just beer, no.
Correct.
I walked in, I didn't see any food or anything. It just,
You can bring your own food in.
okay.
Yeah.
But it's kind of neat, but it's, I just walked in to take a look at it.
For me.
They are open.
I guess we got some tables outside without.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, my understanding is they're trying to get some food trucks to start coming regularly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's pretty neat in there with all the, you can tell they make their own beer and it's kind of neat, so. Just wanted to comment on it.
And then another update, the county, obviously, there was an article in the paper a couple months ago, they sold, it was like 400 lots. They've just recently opened that back up. June 1st, they'll be issuing another, they had 10 pages worth of lots, so it was over like 600 lots still available for bid within Summit Lake only. That'll be going at the next auction, and the phones have been off the charts with investors and people calling about lots, so I don't see it slowing down on the lot sales for the county as well. So.
Fantastic. Great report.
Bring some good news for them.
Yeah. It's great.
Here we go.
Don't drop the ball.
I won't. I'll try and keep this going in the right direction. So, just a quick update. It's not a huge update, but just to keep you informed. The pool resurfacing project that we discussed, not last meeting, that I wasn't here at, the one before, we are still working on getting the estimates for that. We're having a difficult time. Seems like some of the companies don't have quite the manpower to take on the project. So I just wanted to let you know that that's where we are there, is we're still in the quote collection process of the pool resurfacing.
Are you in charge of the light?
Am I in charge of? I will say yes.
Do we have lights off or do we have lights not working?
There are lights that are off at this side of the building. We normally keep those off because it puts a glare on the screen.
But we do have some that are on. I guess.
Maybe, yeah, looks like maybe one. I can get with Mike
I'm
Hurley.
just saying, can we get them?
Yeah, I'll check with Mike Hurley and have those guys get in here and change those for us.
That it?
That's it.
Mr. Hurley is out of town, should be back Monday. But just a quick update on the operations side. The valve replacement starts actually Tuesday morning now in the water plant. Supposed to be Monday. They decided to do Tuesday so that would shorten things because we could not start Monday until 12 because Avon Park asked us not to open the connection. Apparently Monday's a big day with Monday morning. So we'll start Tuesday. We still anticipate the boil water notice being either Wednesday or Thursday morning and not taking no more than 2 days. So we still should be back up and running on Friday. All things working the way they should.
Are you also going to put out prior notice that this is coming up?
Yes, there is a friendly one going out today, and then one Monday, and then the actual boil water notice on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Tuesday, sorry. This is basically an upgrade to everything in the water plant, so it's, well, it won't be a happy notice, it will at least be a positive one.
Should we put your name so that?
I'm out of town.
They have my email address, so I get all of those.
Actually, I am out of town, but I still have my cell phone. The interconnect with Avon Park is now scheduled for June the 7th, 8th, and 9th. Apparently, it's going to take a while to get that done, which seems like a long time, but that's not when it's scheduled to actually go in place. It won't have any impact on us other than it's going to upgrade things as it happens. We have removed a lot of dead trees, the pine trees that were, most of them located around the dog park. Actually, that was pretty dangerous. There were some of them that have been dead for quite some time and the tops were starting to break out of them. So that was completed this week. Maybe last week. Anyway, it's done. And Hurley's crew will be removing more dead pines that are along Sun and Lake. Basically the corner of Sun and Lake and Sunrise, if you will, around hole number 10.
The golf course still has a lot of trees down. Right?
Trees down.
They haven't been removed.
There
Those
were,
are the courses.
I don't know which ones are bad on the golf course.
The trees, I mean, the trees are cut down and put off in the bottom of the side.
Oh, the cleanup, yeah. I don't know when that's gonna happen.
They haven't been cleaned up.
Right,
And there's also a stump that's put up.
correct. I'd have to find out. I don't know the answer to that question. But I will do so. I'll do so and get back to you, but yeah, that should have been done already. I don't really know when they.
4 and 7,
It was back, yeah.
4 and 7 are still got trees.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
That was contracted through Earl, so I don't really know, but I'll find out.
But they're cut down and they're piled up, but they're not taken
I
out.
get it.
Is that it, Dan?
I think operationally, that's pretty much it. I guess I could also tell you, we have a replacement generator plan now. You have a list of the generators that we have, the ones that will be replaced in 2022 next summer. Of course, you know about the one at water treatment plant is being built now as we speak. And then there's one more that will be done in 2023, and that will pretty much do us for the next 5 to 7 years after that. But you have a suggested replacement date of every one of them we have now.
Can I ask a question about the generators?
Sure.
Why do we buy, apparently we buy all kinds of different kinds.
Most of the ones that are not mastery or the old ones, you have to send out an RFP. So it's kind of like the government always said, you know, you're going to war with the lowest bidder.
I mean, we buy some that have,
It absolutely makes sense. And when we started buying mastery, apparently they're more competitive than the others. So I think you'll see that that trend to continue. That thing will all be yellow by the time it's all over with.
Okay, Dan, was that Mike's report or is that the general manager?
That was Mike.
Okay. Next is general manager.
Before we go up,
Oh, wait a minute.
my packet, now I don't know, somehow, there was a resolution about Dylan Corporation, Dylan Real Estate.
Dalen.
Dylan, excuse me.
That was the
There was a resolution 2021-0507-12.
previous meetings.
It was in my packet. Maybe it was from-
That was the previous meeting. I just want to make sure you had the documents.
Okay, there we go. It was.
I think that was a drainage plan.
Yes,
Okay, thank
that
you.
was.
Okay, my fault.
Scared me there for a minute.
General manager report.
Actually, the general counsel comes first.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of things. There's I got communication with Mr. Laconi today. There was a last minute request for an extension on the Avanti suit. The answer from opposing counsel is going to be filed Monday, the 24th. He's already been talking with their counsel, and so we're going to also try and get a mediation date set to kind of get out ahead of the potential mediation. Additionally, I'm in the process of working up the next group of foreclosures for the bondholder, and those will be filed next week. Other than that, that's all I got, unless there's questions.
No, he's next. Huh?
I was being Mike.
He was being early. Okay, now Dan.
Okay,
Thanks, David.
I have 3 or 4 things. Just a quick comment about the Cypress Golf Trail. Andy, I think, is president of that now. Mike used to be seriously involved, but they have basically brought us several tournaments and are looking to bring us several more. We are the only course, Deer Run is the only course in the county that's long enough to challenge the younger guys. So we kind of got a deal that it's tough for anybody else to compete with us on that kind of thing. We've also talked to Jason, who owns Harder Hall, and we're trying to see if we can get the Harder Hall Ladies Tournament here. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. I don't really know. He owns the rights to the name, if you will. It still does carry Curtis Cup points, so it still is going to be a pretty big deal for ladies amateur golf. It would be a great thing for Sebring to keep it. It would be a great thing for Sun Lake if we can get it. So we will try to work on that. We have to be somewhat careful in that Citrus Golf Trail has multiple participants who are other golf courses, so we can't just like say, we'll go get this and do that. But as I said, Deer Run's the only one that's big enough to challenge the younger guys. Just a quick update, the phase 5, we have as you know, we talked about, we have multiple properties that have been deeded, a quitclaim deeded back to Southern Lake that have phase 5 bonds still owed on them. We have reached an agreement with the bond holder, and we are going to liquidate that debt and get a full release, mutual release. They have agreed to that, so we're just waiting now for the paperwork to get done. I haven't exactly yet signed a contract, but I intend to today on a human resources survey with a company called Cody and Associates. The only reason I haven't signed it is we're waiting for them to add some language that David says we need in there to protect ourselves. But they will do a survey of job descriptions, job evaluations, what we should pay for a certain job, and looking at total compensation on a per individual basis. The contract calls for 60 to 90 days to have everything done, so we should be still within our budget process. So if we need to make some amendments, we can do so. We signed an agreement this week to do the repairs to the sewage treatment facility retaining wall over on Unit 23 that was identified by the DEP. It's $17,000 cost. Don't have any choice, you gotta fix it. We did post the position for operations manager. We have about, I think it was 10 or 11 resumes yesterday. As of yesterday, I haven't seen anything today. A couple of them are fairly interesting. I would anticipate we'll get more over the next few weeks. The thing about, if you post them on Indeed, Indeed has a bot that basically blows you. If you post a position, they send it resumes whether they're qualified or not. So you got people sending you an application for an operations manager who ever had anything to do with operations in their resume. So they were an operator of a motel. They think we get their resume, so you have to sift through these things. But that should, hopefully we'll get some good ones in the next few weeks. I think that's all I have, Mike.
I got a couple questions. Is there any update on Unit 12?
Interesting that you bring that up. Yes, we had a conversation yesterday afternoon with Melanie Culpepper. Her position is that the mitigation for skinks and scrub jays has been done when the property was platted. So I think we can sit down with Mr. Hornick now and see if we can work out a deal.
What we do?
Yeah.
There was, I'm working in your emails, so you said that every once in a while. You mentioned on one of the placement of signs on course and registering the parts from the last meeting.
Correct.
What was anything? I couldn't remember the placement of the signs on the course, what that was all about.
One of the discussions was that could we or should we place signs on the entrance to the golf course stating that this is a golf course and not a place for you to ride your bicycle?
Have we got any way with the registration, or are we changing anything?
We don't think it's appropriate for us. We don't have any enforcement power nor any way to make people register their golf carts or their Correct. So we are going to put a sign, we're looking at signs, I have several examples that I got this morning, as a matter of fact. So yeah, that's moving along, and I think it should work its way out. I got a couple of them, we'll have David look at and make sure that we're legal, but yeah.
Just a couple more things. You sent out an email about vehicle management system.
Vehicle management system.
Yeah, you said we got the first.
Oh,
step.
yes, we have
I didn't even know we had, what is it?
we have on our computers a system, it's called Asset Panda, if I'm not mistaken, that basically registers all the gators and trucks and pieces of equipment. And it's been in the system, but we never got any reports out of it. And so what I've asked for is I want to know how much you've spent in the last year on this piece of equipment, Gator number 12 or whatever. How old is it? How many hours are on it? How much money you spent on it? That sort of thing, so that we can decide, okay, we don't need to replace this particular one. The same with all the equipment over there. We in essence have a computerized deal that tells you that.
So this would be the equipment that's not included in the maintenance agreement?
That would include all of them.
Oh, includes everything?
That's right. We need that on the equipment that's included in the maintenance agreement. Most of those things have a $1 buyout at the end of them. So we have to decide whether we're going to spend that $1 or we're going to let it go back.
Are we still intending on trying to put the district in the golf course together with the maintenance? I know we talked about it, that Earl was going to take it on, obviously, like James.
I'm not sure there was the answer is yes. The lease doesn't expire until, I think it's 18 months from now. Is that correct? So we'll be looking at that for next year's budget, but yeah. And we have to take a look at what makes sense. Earl leaving will make that more difficult, but not impossible. The first step though is to figure out what equipment we have, and then B, how old is it? How many need to be replaced? How many doesn't? That sort of thing. So information is dangerous. That's what we're trying to get to now, so we understand what we got, or I understand what we got.
Just two little things. You said member dues and green fee projections are budgeted as you approved at our last meeting. That's not correct. The numbers have not changed. Just so you know. I'm just
There was discussion at the last meeting.
I'm just saying they were not changed from last week.
No, correct.
Yeah, well, he said, okay. And then the last thing is, you mentioned you were going to talk about, you mentioned you were going to talk about how hard it is to do business with Sun Lake. You want to?
We have identified that we have an issue with getting people paid on a timely basis. And it appears that it's because, at least partially because, we haven't been specific about if you have a bill come to us, it needs to go to accounts payable so it gets entered into the system instead of sitting on somebody's desk for 2 or 3 weeks. So we're working on that. That was part of the strategic plan.
So it's an accounts payable thing.
Correct.
Thank you.
On that note though, could you work with some of our contractors and see if they can be a little quicker on doing their job?
It is slower than that.
Yeah, but maybe it's Florida when we don't pay them right away either. Okay, any other questions for Dan? Unfinished then?
None.
New business,
None.
committee reports,
None.
public comment.
Hello, you all. You do a great job, every one of you. I'm very proud to live here. Just a few questions about noise ordinance. I get woken up every morning at 7 o'clock by a neighbor who rents a house who has a very loud diesel truck. And I want to know if there's any noise ordinance for loud noises late at night or early morning. And some other my concerns are, I don't know,
Yeah, there's not that we control. If there's a noise complaint, it has to go through the county. We don't have any police power over noise complaints.
Okay, in reference to what you did to the painting on Wednesday on about the control of the speeders, I haven't seen it help that much at all. And I thought maybe you would go back and reconsider putting a speed bump there in the near future. I would like that to be possibly done in the next year or so.
I think we can ask Harley to put the speed limit and the speed machine back out. And track it and see what happens.
Okay, please.
If you can tell me where you want it specifically.
Well, where you had it last time seemed to be effectively.
Michael.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know, but
Okay. Another thing about the parking, a lot of people park on their grasses throughout the community, but particularly constantly on the other side where their duplexes. And I know that's against the rules, and I'd like to see that even on the way up here today, I saw 2 cars parked on grasses today. If they could start
I'll ask
16 in the way or whatever.
I'll ask code.
Okay. And I love the community, I'm gonna live here until I die. But I wish there was another HOA saying that houses could be painted similar. There's a person bought a house on Savannah, got yellow and green checkered. And that may be cool down in Miami, but it's not what I like in my community. And the other question I have is, I've been working with a neighbor on and off for 3 years. There's a poor dog in back of me that is chained up 24/7. And I know there's a leash law, tried to go through the state. Other counties have relaxed the tether law. This poor dog's out there, whether it's 32 degrees or 95 degrees. And I actually, when I first moved in here, I got the authorities to come out and make the owner of the dog put it in a shelter. He got loose. Yesterday, I went over, knocked on the door, nobody was home. So I called the proper authorities to come out. I don't know what they did. The dog is aggressive. It's a small little dog. The owners don't really care much about it. And I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. And I'm trying to get the dog legally taken away from them because they don't walk it, pet it. The kids in the yard, they don't get ignored. It's just there. And it's a shame that dog deserves a loving home. Thank you for your time. You do a great job, and I hope to be on the board myself in a couple of years.
Anyone else? Okay, discussion to and from the board. Okay, we're gonna recess for 5 minutes. You guys want 10? 5-minute recess. Yes.
Thank you, I'll text Kelly right now.
You ready? Yeah. Okay, we can start. Workshop on the general and utility fund budget. That you, Mark?
That will be me. The easiest place to start, I sent an email yesterday afternoon to all the supervisors with some of our conversations and some recommendations that we recommend on the accounting for some of the capital projects as well as the capital lease, golf cart lease and operating lease. So I think it'd be best to just compare page 16 of your packet to the document I provided you in the email, and I give you a paper copy as well. I think with the conversations that have happened with the board, doing so will provide the best operating performance and tracking for each fund going forward. So for this first budget, with the new revised changes, the general fund is budgeted to have $3.5 million in revenues, $3.3 million in operating expenses, which leaves about $300,000 for capital. We have budgeted $545,000 in capital expenses, assuming that we pay for 100% of all those expenses, including the playground, which puts that entire fund at a deficit of $260,210. Are we all on the same page for that first fund? Included in those, I'll just hit some of the major highlights and we can have conversations as we go today. The first assumption that we made to get to that budget number is a proposed increase for assessments of 1.5% has been included in this first run. So the 1.5% increase is about $10.50 for a single family dwelling. So it goes from $700 charge to $710.50. That will generate about $50,000 in extra revenue for the upcoming budget. So that's how we get to that 3.35 number for assessments. Is there any discussion or comments on the rate increase for assessments?
Yeah, what page is the assessment page?
16. So you can look at 16, page 20 kind of shows the forecast of where we are in collections as of April, where we were as of April, and then where we're projecting to be for the rest of the year for just the 2020 billing.
No, didn't you give us a page?
19.
Huh?
19.
19, correct.
I think that's what you're looking for.
The rate sheet.
Omar, I can comment real quick that, this has been ongoing for me for 6 years, but I do not like the fact that I looked at this and I saw a 3% raise for our employees, and I also saw 1.5% increase in the assessments without, I just think that those are things that we need to talk about before they get on, because you give us the option, the only thing we can do is vote it out.
Correct.
I don't like the fact that it even gets in there until we're talked to. So, Dan, I'm pleading with you. Some of these things are not, should not show up till you talk to the supervisor.
Right, so once again, in the past, typically, we start off with proposal number one.
I understand.
Right.
I understand.
It's just a base proposal on what we recommend internally for expenses, merit increases, assessment rates. If we did not include that, then we would start with where we are today, then you guys would have to dictate where we go from there. So we can do that going forward if we'd like. I just think it's very difficult to just start with today for first budget.
Well, I'm not saying you could have brought it up and talked to us individually and see.
Right.
I mean, hell, I put up with it now, this is the 6th or 7th budget, but it just I feel puts us in a bad spot, and
I have to disagree, Mike. I
well,
think they have
that's
to,
fine then.
I think they have to give us what they believe is what they want. And
Yeah.
then it's up to us to determine what.
Craig, we've had a 3% increase every year since I've been on
About 3% of those that be for a merit increase.
Talking about assessment, right?
here. Well, that part of it, but it's the increase in the, and how much is a 3% raise cost?
So the overall impact of 3% for every single employee is $30,000 total. We have about 35 to 40 employees who that falls, including part-time employees. So we're talking about 50 cents per employee on average is what we're discussing.
Total 30,000,
Correct.
because I think last year was 45,
Last year was about 38.
38.
Last year, the board made a decision that if you were at the top of your pay scale, you would no longer get that. So that saved about $6,000 or $7,000 by doing
You're
that.
talking about assessments?
What we're talking about is the fact that merit increases are presented in the first draft and the board didn't have any input on how it got there. So that's the conversation is, would the board like to start a budget flat where we start, I guess, last year and not have any recommendations from the district staff and you guys make all the recommendations to get in there? Or do we start with our recommendations and then have conversations of why it's in there, why we feel this way, and then you guys say yes, no, or.
Well, we do it with vehicles and everything, but I just, in those two particular things,
Right, I think we mentioned those in our one-on-one conversations of how much was in there, how much is, and why it is.
This is the district presenting a budget that we support.
Right.
Correct.
The district should make recommendations on what they think is the best thing to do, so I'm gonna go with Craig on this one. And I don't see a problem with what you're doing,
And I agree.
and then we decide whether it's right or wrong.
okay, I'm not, this isn't a battle. This is opinions and you all have one, so.
Right.
And
So it
we
is,
have one.
and that's one of the conversations we can discuss, the board can discuss. It is in there as a 3%. That has been the norm for the last
Yeah,
5 years.
every year that I've been here.
It's been 5. Internally, we've had some conversations that I think as we get the HR consultant input, we may be able to look at it in a different format or come up with some different alternatives. It could be worse. It could be worse, it could be better. We could do it different right now. Once again, a 3% increase for a higher level executive may be $3,000 because it's based off their base salary. Where a 3% for a lower level employee may be only 50 cents. So I think there's some things we can do internally to make it consistent across the board, where it's $1 for everyone or 50 cents. And more fair across the board.
I thought on the salary issue, he's gonna hire somebody today to go out and do all this kind of stuff. and they're gonna
But that's what I said.
Recommendations.
Right.
So to me, a salary conversation is new until we have this report back.
Right, we're just going off what we have today going forward. So once again, if the HR consultant comes back and says, everyone's underpaid by $5,000, they could say that. The board's gonna then have to make a decision of whether we implement that, how we implement that, what pace we implement those things. It doesn't mean.
I don't think we can determine that until we have this report back.
Right. That'll help.
That's probably true. The issue gets to be how quickly can we get it done, because we should have everything done before we approve the final budget. I'm not sure what date that'll be, August maybe?
We have to do it right at the end of
Well, I'm just saying, if we have this big discussion, and say you come up
You
with
can-
1%,
Yeah.
you come back and it says.
Well, you can leave 3 in there and then change it up or down if you need to. I'm guessing that there's gonna be some type of merit increase for people. So that's your choice.
My concern would be whether 3% is enough this year, because we're gonna have impacts from minimum wage.
Correct.
Even though we may or may not have people making minimum wage, if you're raising everybody with minimum wage, then those people that are just a little bit above minimum wage are gonna be underpaid if they're not increased. So 3% may not be enough this year.
That's correct. And I think a bigger concern number is the total benefit package. How much do we pay?
Right, that's where I was leading to. It's the benefit package too is involved in this.
So I think once we get the HR consultant back, they're gonna say, well, you may not be competitive price-wise, salary-wise, but you're more than competitive over here, so maybe it balances out. I don't know. It's difficult for us to hire people now that are young and single and don't care about benefits. But by the same token, you got people that are getting paid $25,000 a year that are getting $20,000 a year close to it in benefits. So I mean, it's a balancing act. 3% isn't just a starting point. I agree with you. I think given the situation with the minimum wage increase, 3% is probably maybe not be enough. And I'd be more adamant about that if I didn't think the benefit package was as rich as it is.
Right.
And then we've also got to keep a close eye on CPI. The last federal report on that was not real good for.
No, it's a little bit frightening when you see what is really going on. In fact, it's more than a little bit frightening. It's going to be a balancing act, and you can put 3 in, you can put 5 in, you can justify either one just as well. And the same with the assessment. You can justify 0 just as fast as you can justify 5. Depending on what your objective is, I guess.
So let's see how did you, the 1.5, just,
For 1.5, once again, in the years past, what we've done is we've kind of tackled the water revenues. What we've done in the past is we've increased it by $1, $2. So I kept the same concept to assessments. If you did $1 a month, about $12, so we got to the 1.5% is what that would equate to, and that's how we got to that number. That could easily be 3 as well. Once again, it's kind of the board's position on how quick you want to go on the assessments and how much we're going.
Our revenue streams are out of balance. You're not covering on your assessment revenue, but you're more than covering on your utility revenue. You're gonna need that utility revenue in the future if you look at doing a new sewer plant or whatever you look at doing. So you probably want to reserve the ability to raise utility revenue for the future, and you may want to go ahead and do it. There's a lot of stuff that's in the works right now that's kind of percolating, that as the Florida Rural Water Survey comes back and says, you do need this, you don't need that, you need to do this over here, we're gonna know more what our revenue streams need to look like. So this is the first pass. I think before we get to the last pass, we're gonna know a lot more.
this is not really, it's kind of budget related, not budget, but as far as this assessment, I'm thinking that we ought to, at the end of this fiscal year, have a state of the district. A letter sent out by you saying, okay, this is what your assessments, this is what we did with your assessments. We did this, we did this, we did this. And even tentatively, you know, since it's gonna be the new budget, this is what we have proposed for this year. This is where we're, and just, because I don't think people know what we do with the assessment.
Right. That's probably a really good idea.
I think that would be, you know, from either from the general, or from the president, or combined, I don't care which, but I think we need to tell them what we did with the money.
I mean, ideally, it should go out with the essential bill.
Yeah, we can do it that way
Just
too.
nail it together with a separate bill.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
But I agree, absolutely. People, that was the one thing everybody always, when I was trying to rerun, the people who were not members, their first question was, what are you doing with my $700?
It always comes up, and it usually comes up where you spend it on and all great stuff. And you know that.
That's their comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're tired of.
But we
That's
don't.
why we need to get
Yeah,
that
we
out
don't.
of what we, but all the stuff that we do, all the drainage and roads that we're doing, the new, or the repairs on generators, repair on the lift stations.
Yeah.
Repair on the sewer system. They don't understand, they don't see that, they don't know it. We know about it, but they don't. And I
They
think
may
the
not
state
even
of
care
the
about it, but it'd be good to tell them, so they have it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
My point on the assessments, I thought 1.5% was not sufficient.
I kind of agree.
And, you know, the overall expenses show an overall increase of 12%. That's what you said for utility. If you go up to general, you're saying, you know, 8%. There's all kinds of percentages, none of which are under 2%.
Right.
And so I would challenge the 1.5 and say it's not sufficient. We haven't raised them since, when did we make the last?
Last time we did the GAI consultant.
Yeah, but it really was, we raised it, but we didn't for
We went-
email.
That one went from 673.44 to $700 flat is when we did the last.
That was about, what, 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago. So I know they'll complain. Everybody complains when you do a price increase or something like that. But I think it's time to do another hit. I think we're gonna do it like the dollar. You know, and say, here's what we anticipate the next 3 years, here's why. So that they know, and you can say 0, but at least say, here's what we're forecasting based on what we know today. So, but I think 1.5 is too much. I can't tell you the number that I said originally, because Mr. Steve said, so I'm not allowed to speak that.
I certainly agree. We've got to go up higher. I think we need to go up higher on both the assessment and on the labor and complete a lot of homework in summer. To make sure that we're on the right I'm thinking we've got to be in the neighborhood of 4% on the assessment and 4% on labor as well. Maybe 5.
Cost of living does at least 4%.
I'm sorry?
I said cost of living is having at least 4% right now, I would think.
Again, I don't know if anybody's still listening on Zoom, but if we can use our mics, it makes it a lot easier for everybody.
Yeah.
I know I have trouble tracking some of the Zoom comments.
I can live with 4%, but I also like the idea that Dan had as far as utilities go. That hold that in the back pocket for future reference.
Absolutely.
Because we're gonna get a report on that anyway, correct?
Yes.
Which will tell us what opportunities we have there, but I don't think we necessarily have to take advantage of it this year. So I would go with Dan's recommendation of holding on that and Neil's recommendation of 4%.
We will know before the final budget, we'll have the Florida Rural Waters study, and that part of that is supposed to be an estimate of what our sewer capacity will need to be, which you can then extrapolate and what it'll cost you to service that. But I mean, we'll be able to get an SRF loan for 100% of it, as I understand it, when I was talking to Corley. So we don't have to worry about it particularly right now, but we will in the future. So do we want to start building a reserve or not? We'll know that in another month or so. I mean, this is still really preliminary. I think it pretty easily you can justify 3 or 4 on the assessments. You can probably justify the same thing on the utility side eventually, depending on what your time frame is. You can leave it now, you can address it now. We'll need to address it before we finally do the budget, the final budget. This is the first pass.
Yeah, well, see, I'm the same way. When I saw 1.5%, I thought, hell, if we're gonna raise it, I don't want 1.5. I want it more than that, but I looked at the IMIs, I think you and I talked about it when we first started. And it was a slow increase every year. We'd be paying $1,100 a unit right now if we stuck with that, just.
Right.
But I'm in favor of at least, 4, but I don't wanna do it again next year either.
Right. And that was kind of the position we took going into this, is let's stay consistent with small percentage increases that go in line with expenses versus taking on 4, then going to 0. And that's kind of the way it's been had, is we did the big increase 3 years ago and then stopped doing it again. So we went up $28, but then didn't do anything for 3 years. So you end up being in the same position one way or the other. So sometimes a slow, steady raise gets you a little bit farther and more consistent than jumping all the way around. One thing to consider as well is, it's, once again, 4% isn't a bad idea. We're only at $260,000 in the deficit, assuming worst case scenario, every budget gets expensed to the T and you get no refunds back for RPAC funding, grant funding. So this could easily be a break-even budget for the general fund with the 1.5% on that.
What you gotta keep in mind is down the road, even though it's not on the capital plan right now, we're gonna have to talk about this building, what we're gonna do with it. We're gonna have to talk about other things in some way. So there's gonna be, when we get done with the shopping list that we have, that's not it. We're gonna have more.
Right. It's been the same way for the last 5 years.
So that's why you have to, look down the road and say,
Once again, we've been doing this for the last 5 years and we've taken the same approach, and something always comes up and it never comes up to the extent that.
Okay, but we just got a report that we've got about $9 million in sewer work that needs to be done. Whether or not we do it right away, obviously we're not going to, but we've got places to spend the money.
Absolutely.
We're trying to get to the point where we're managing for the future, and 1.5% isn't going to do it.
And the drainage and the road should be covered from the general fund as opposed to the utility fund. So I think it's eminently justified to, if you want to do 3, or if you want to do 4 at a time, however y'all want to do it, whatever is most palatable. But if you're going to do 1.5, then I think you have to be committed to do 1.5 next year and 1.5 the year following. however you want to do it, but you can certainly justify it this year.
So I think for the next, I'll bring back proposal number 2 with a 4% increase, just so you guys can see the number. We'll build in 4% for this next budget.
Very good.
But I'd still like to see three numbers that we send out to people.
Sure.
And I agree, Mike, doesn't have, it shouldn't be 4, 4, 4. I'll be asking for a lot of help, but maybe 4, 2, and 2. 4, 3, 2. Or 4, you know, something.
Right.
And if we're wrong, they'll be the first.
It could go along with this is what we've done with your money this year, and this is what we project for the next year.
Well, eventually, you're still gonna want to do this, well, it's good.
We've got some major things that have to be done, but we have been pushing back and pushing back. And we can't push back.
No.
It's time to sit there and say, how are we gonna fund this? And this is, part of that is the funding now that we're getting.
Right, and I think what happened, and we've looked at that, once again, Dan and I, knowing some of those numbers are out there, the $9 million, the sewer plant, when you really put them out there and you fund them in cash flow, the district right now is in a great position to cash flow all these expenses and get them done. So once again, these small increases will help just build those reserves and keep us on pace. But we're in a good financial position where right now, if we had to do a sewer plant, we'd be fine cash flow on that, and not have a problem. As far as other revenues for the general fund, one of the things that I want to bring up, page 22, was the recreation memberships. So last year, we made some recommendations. Obviously, COVID had some impacts on memberships and how many people joined. What we're proposing this year is to eliminate the membership for the racket club facility. On average, that's been about $7,000 revenue on collections from district residents. So we'd be giving that up in order for the entire community to have free access to the shuffleboard, tennis courts, pickleball courts, and then eventually in the master plan, the bocce ball facility will also be included in that same location. By doing that, then we would recommend eliminating the all-inclusive membership and also eliminate or add a 1-month membership for non-residents to the racket club facility. So if you're a Canadian resident, you want to come down and you're only here for 3 months, you can buy a month-to-month membership if you want to go and play shuffleboard courts or play with your friends or whatever it may be. Currently, the way we allow them to do that is they have to get a day pass and pay every single day they go, which once again is a little bit of a nuisance to staff, record keeping, and then just monitoring it over there is a little bit more difficult for us as well. So we would recommend just do 30 days for $25, which is less than $1 a day for that facility.
The 1 month membership, that's for non-residents?
That would be for non-residents only. Every single resident would have free access.
It's really fair. I would just start, I was 1 month membership for non-residents.
So once again,
But why
mainly for those Canadian residents that come down for 5-6 months. If they want to go,
if they live here, they're residents. Well, that's what I'm missing.
Yeah, if they're owning their home and paying their assessment.
This would be if you wanted to bring your daughter's down visiting or whatever, then you can get a month, 1 month for however long she is. Now you gotta pay, if you want to play 5 days in a row, you gotta pay $5 every day.
Right.
So this is for a non-resident.
and it's really to get those people too outside the community who want to test drive the facility. Right now, they only have a $5 day pass is all they have, or a full multi-year pass. So maybe getting them to try the 1 month, say, hey, I love this, we can play pickleball, play tennis, see our facilities, go to it, and then join, rather than doing the day pass. It's really to eliminate the day pass going forward.
Now, non-residents only have access right now with somebody that has the key, right?
No, we have non-resident members, we do have non-resident memberships for the racket club.
No. But, okay, but they've got their own access.
That's correct. So if a non-resident has a membership to the facility, or if they've gone and paid for the day pass, then yes, they have their own access into the facility. We have taken public funds for that facility. So however it is that we structure it, we have to make that facility open to the public, even if it's by membership. It doesn't have to obviously be free, but it has to be available.
So on page 24, if you look for non-residents, currently we have 60 non-resident full memberships. So we are getting good participation from non-residents as far as buying at the racket club. This year, 60 annual membership individual for racket club. is where we,
Yeah, but those are non-members.
that's non-residents. Residents
Those
are
are all non-residents.
correct. The left side would be residents, which would now be free and would be,
It was $3,500.
all right, we do this for $35.
I don't care. I mean, it's not worth it.
I could see getting that day pass, it's probably more trouble than it's worth.
Exactly. And it cost us $2.50 for the little ticket that we give them, so it's.
It wouldn't be so inconvenient if it wasn't for the fact that you have to go on the complete opposites. It's so far away for them to have to go that in all honesty, I don't think people are getting day passes. I think
Yeah, it's Craig, I rented twice this year, shuffleboard, my family wanted to play. We went and got our $5 passes, there were 6 of us, I think, or 8. And went there and the gates wide open. So, I mean, it's, it's disappointing, it looks to be like we wasted about $80, but, it's not working. And these people, you know, they're not, one of them rents here or owns a home here, but isn't a member of anything, but it's just, we don't have a way of, because it's just like these non-resident racket club players, they come in and leave the door open and there's people coming in that aren't members, I know that. So it's just, we got a problem with where it is and.
What kind of financial issue is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the second piece of that is, do you send the Gestapo over to run them out, you know, you don't exactly make yourself popular with the community.
Have we had any issues where the residents said they couldn't play because of outside players?
No. We have,
Hey, we did the right thing, letting all members, all residents play for free. That's the right thing. You want to screw around with the outside ones for $10? Whatever, go.
yeah, you know, at some point in time, you're gonna have to decide whether or not you wanna convert those tennis courts, 2 tennis courts to pickleball courts. We pretty much, it's still up in the air until it's finished, but yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't know, do we?
I just read that email. It sounded to me like it was done.
Which one?
Converting.
so the resurfacing project is what is being proposed in the budget for next year. What we would need to know, whether it's a vote or just an overall consensus saying, yes, we don't have a problem with converting 2 of those tennis courts into pickleball courts, because ideally the time to do that would be when we resurface all of the courts.
Did you ever discuss with the lady? They converted some of their tennis courts and you can get 2 pickleball courts out of the tennis court.
Correct.
And there's temporary nets that can be purchased. I'm trying to remember the gal's name. Bonnie? Yes.
Yes.
Have you talked to her yet?
I have not, and you just reminded me, and I will.
Thank you. Actually, the other one that could probably tell you the same would be Judy.
Ariel, would this conversion be for non-residents? Is that why we're doing this, or we have that much resident play?
Well, we have that much play pickleball in general. I couldn't tell you on like any given day who it is, but we could definitely support the additional pickleball courts.
Because I'm all in favor of redoing for our residents, but I could care less how many non-residents play pickleball here.
But that sets us up with the ability to have tournaments also.
Correct.
Yeah, well, that's outside people.
Well,
It's good
And we
publicity.
usually waive all the fees when we have the tournaments here, so it's not a moneymaker. I mean, I don't care either way, but we have a tournament here, they come in and we have to waive the fees.
That one particular one we did, but that's not necessarily the structure for all tournaments. Some tournaments do pay to come and use your facility
Well, that would be nice if.
Yeah,
they did pay.
yes, that was one particular tournament, but overall, that's not always the standard.
Good, I'll hold you to that.
It's good PR too.
Yeah, it's absolutely good PR, it's good.
Absolutely.
And we've got a great facility, I would hate,
Around here.
we could use, yes. We've got a great facility and I would hate for it to just sit when it has the potential to host that. We've got a great facility for that. I attended a pickleball meeting not that long ago, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, and we really are set up to be the prime location for those tournaments in Highlands County, not just Sebring. So
As long as you feel that we won't upset anybody. I'll support your decision.
sounds good. One thing that we did talk about, one thing that we did discuss was the potential of, now that we have a new software program in recreation, we have the ability to reach out to a specific membership type. So for instance, we can send or we can get the information for the people who only have Racket Club or the people who have access to the Racket Club, and we may send out like a survey or some sort of questionnaire just to get a gauge on the amount of play for pickleball versus tennis. If it comes back and surprises us, then we'll let you know. But from what we have observed and what we have heard from the members is that the interest is definitely more so geared toward pickleball right now. If the next time we come about resurfacing, that's changed and maybe the sport of pickleball has quieted down and it's not quite so popular, it's a very easy conversion back to 2 tennis courts, and we're not out anything, so.
I'm just curious, not that I care that much, why do you think the membership in the fitness center drops so much? We went from 141 to 50.
I think it definitely has something to do with the fact that we increased the price.
Right.
Is probably the primary reason,
What was the price of it?
like $60.
We doubled. So we got half the members, same amount of money,
No, that's not.
8,000, 6,000.
According to this, you didn't get half the money you lost money.
Right, it's $1,000 or $2,000
Well,
difference.
maybe we're gonna lower the price and try and get more people back. I mean, it's here.
I believe the majority of the people who are using the facility are gonna qualify either those who are interested through golf or the Silver Sneakers program. As far as paid memberships, I don't think we've ever really had a lot per se, just because it's a small facility with very limited offerings.
I think it shows you too.
These are your numbers, right?
Right. I think it shows you that no matter how much you invest in that facility, they're not willing to pay $10 a month to come.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm saying just lower the price and see if you get some more money out.
So if we lower it, we'll get 141 and still make $8,000.
Well,
You're in the
it's better
center.
than 6,000. Hey, you know, fine.
I think the thing you have to consider about that fitness facility is the risk there. It's A, not staffed, B, it's open, 6 o'clock in the morning,
5 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night.
5 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. If somebody has a heart attack in there or falls off one of the machines or drops a dumbbell on their foot,
And then we got to close it.
Yeah, I think soon that ought to come up for, it ought to come up for discussion with closing that thing, so just a recommendation.
the real issue has been that we were basically putting that off until there was a close alternative, but I'm not sure how long it's gonna take before the hospital actually builds something. If you've been here as long as I have, you would know that the hospital probably had 150 Sun Lake residents there on a regular basis because it was a nice facility, not a little one-room deal like we've got. But they closed it, and that's where I think it's radiology or something is there now. But we don't have much. We don't charge much, but we don't have much. You can go to Planet Fitness or whatever they are for $10 a month, and you got
A lot more.
everything you can think. You just got to drive to get to it.
You also don't get claustrophobic.
Yes,
Exactly.
also true.
But my concern more is the risk that we're running by even having.
Yeah, I would certainly concur with the concept of closing it, because I'm not sure. It doesn't make enough money to make it worth the risk. It's not that nice a facility. I joined it 1 year. I didn't rejoin because I didn't use it, because It's not a comfortable place to work at.
Just food for thought, bring it up later.
Well, the time to do it's in budget, so
Yeah.
we'll bring back a recommendation.
Okay,
And I guess I would also, to the counter of lowering the rate, I'm not sure how the accounting works, but I would assume the Silver Sneakers program, we get paid based on what the fee is. So if we lower the fee, we get less from Silver Sneakers.
We actually get, and I don't know off the top of my head what the rate is, but I wanna believe it's like a set rate because we get a check from them. The thing with Silver Sneakers is that it's gonna require, the person, so say that I am that person that has the Silver Sneakers program, after so long of you not using the facility, you drop off. So it's gonna require them to continue going. So the money we get from it just fluctuates so much because you might have 20 people who have it right now, but then 15 of them haven't used it within that certain time period. So now it drops off and you make less. So it's really just all over the board for that.
I think Silver Seekers has a predetermined rate of what they're willing to pay,
Right.
and you just have to accept it. It's not based off of your fee or.
Like a negotiable.
The other thing I want to mention on page 23 that is not on there that's affecting revenues this year is the summer camp. So in this first proposal, we're recommending to just eliminate summer camp going forward. Really, it's net positive for the district. So we would gain $20,000 in revenue, but we would spend about $28,000 after labor, supplies, and trips, whatever you might have. So it was losing about $8,000 a year. Once again, the concern there is potential risk. Once you have young children, watching young children in a pool, in a facility, running around, outside, could be dehydrated. There's just a lot of things that could come up in a worst case potential scenario, to be losing money. And it's not exclusively just for Summit Lake residents. It's one of the factors that we took in determining we could invest our $8,000 to $10,000 somewhere else and still give a better benefit for the district residents going forward. Put in the 50 second.
Is that really?
I gotta say, I express my concerns. I think eliminating some camp. I'll lose the vote 4-1, and I'll be happy to lose the vote. But I just gotta tell you, it's a service to the community. It's a service to the people living in the community. Granted, it's a minority of people, I understand. But there are some people who probably depend on us taking care of their kids during the summer, like most places do. I think we're making a mistake, but that's just my opinion.
Some of the schools may offer a summer camp. We could maybe sponsor a scholarship or something for some of our people. We're more concerned with eliminating the risk, and at some point in time,
Talking about risk, we've got to have a policy of some kind.
at some point in time, we should have an individual discussion about that.
So we have, okay, whatever.
yeah, I agree with doing away with it.
I support that.
So for the revenues, that pretty much ties out all the recommended changes for the first draft in the general fund. Operationally, we've highlighted some of the major assumptions that are also being accounted for. We talked about in detail a little bit about health and benefits right now.
Can I go back to this one more time?
Yeah, go ahead.
The Independence Day celebration, I don't agree with taking that out.
So I met with Mike Lemire and Andy and Kelly yesterday. We're not taking the celebration out. We're finalizing the event plan in a way that we can try and help elevate the efforts of the restaurant and the event that they put on with their dinner and their premiere viewing in the same way. How do we do something similar to what we were doing, but different? Maybe we get away from the bounce houses and clowns and balloon tying, but still having a premier place for residents who, want to take advantage of maybe some like novelty food trucks, like we talked about. Like in the past, we did fried Oreos, and we have a popcorn vendor that's a resident of Sun and Lake. Things of that. We will still be doing something. It may not be the exact thing that we had. The other thing that we want to keep this year that we did last year that we got a lot of positive feedback was allowing people and encouraging people to use that opposite side of the lake over by the recreation complex where they all came and brought their lawn chairs and watched the fireworks just for free, and that you don't have to come and sit in this space with the vendors if you don't want, and just watch the fireworks if you just want to bring your family to watch the fireworks.
I think we're wrong. Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, we don't do that much for the community. This is a big deal. I mean, people come from all over Seabury,
Right.
Sunny Lake, to us, because of what we're doing and what we're already in the community.
Right, and I think that has more to do with the fact that we really invest in a really great firework display.
And the kids and the families have a lot to do when they come here. They
The,
do. They come early in the day, they sit out, they picnic, they eat.
right, and they can still do, that's not going away.
What's going away?
The structure of the event that we had where we would only do hot dogs, and it became more of a,
They try to turn it into a restaurant.
not even close. You've got an area, a public area, you can go and watch the fireworks for free. We're not charging you anything. We are paying for a $12,000 firework display. We want you to come enjoy it. It's a great firework display, and I would venture to say probably the best one in the county. However, if you want something that's a little more secluded, again, this is not the final plan, but just to give you an idea of kind of what we brainstormed, have a cash bar and a DJ or a live band, have a couple of food truck vendors, where if you want that kind of experience, if you want the cornhole boards and all of that, then you come over to the restaurant side where it was in previous years, and you can pay to get in just like you used to. But literally, the only thing we'll be getting rid of is bounce houses, clown face painting, like minor details of that
All the
nature.
tricks for the kids. You're gonna take the band inside?
No,
versus outside?
they'll be outside.
Okay, fine, I'm done. Do it through. Doesn't seem to bother anyone.
I enjoyed it last year. I was in a group, I don't even know if Craig was with us. 10 or 12 of us ate there and got a prime seat. So it was nice for us, but we didn't have any kids with us.
And the other side was packed.
Yeah.
Packed full of cars.
Packed
Still
Oh, yeah, up here,
Yeah, on this side, correct.
Yes.
This was full.
it was full. Lots of kids and
It'd be good if we had resident feedback on, hey, we missed well, there is.
But we didn't get that at all. Actually, we got pretty much the opposite. We actually got more phone calls last year. This was great. The fireworks were great. We really enjoyed being able to come and bring our family, play on the playground or whatever over there. We got a lot of positive feedback from last year. And last year, all we did was fireworks. We did fireworks last year.
Well, we had the restaurant.
right.
It was COVID, they were just happy to be out.
That's also true.
And if you had a reservation at the restaurant, then you got the seating directly out from the restaurant to watch. Otherwise, you could park up there by and then the rest of the time you had to come out with tons of jeeps. Yeah, I remember that, yeah. There's something, I think we were talking about having somebody direct traffic, I think Hurley might have got a call about that time.
yeah, except for people that like to celebrate 4th of July, it's after 4.
So I'm not sure if, page 28 is where we start the expenses by department. I'm not sure if you want to go department by department, or if you just want me to highlight the major changes in each one, and then if you have a question, you can bring it up. In each fund, in each department, you're gonna see 7% increase for health insurance costs is what the county just approved at the last insurance committee meeting. Liability and property coverages are expected to be around 5%. We have not seen the final numbers from our carriers yet. They're still in the works of negotiating that, but that's the estimation that they've given us. It's kind of an earmark to what we should budget for. Recreation has the conversion of a part-time custodian to full-time with benefits. We talked about the summer camp event and labor being removed. The finance department is still working through a possible $16,000 increase due to non-ad valorem fire assessments. So we're working with the county now, trying to negotiate if we can get a partial exemption, which pretty much will just eliminate the non-ad valorem portion of it. If we cannot get the partial exemption, then we have to go full exemption. which would then, we would not have to pay property tax or the non-ad valorem. Either way, it's gonna be a benefit to the district with either exemption. It just, once you do the full exemption, you'll be limited to what you can use that land for. It has to be government use, because it's no longer taxed, it's tax exempt. Security, we did some shift changes in order to have the supervisor of that department work during the normal day shift between 8 to 4:30 during the day, which creates more labor needed on the second shift to cover that shift. And then the drainage allowance, it's typically been about 200,000 the last couple of years. They're asking for 275 this year with some new additions, trying to catch up on some other projects that they plugged in there this year.
Like what?
He gave me a detailed list.
I mean, we've been giving them a pretty good chunk of money.
Yeah, and it's been going down. They've been tackling, this year we only had 200.
Yeah.
We had approved 225. Looks like they've identified some more stuff that they want to take care of, and they built in $75,000 this year to take care of it.
So he's already kind of tentatively come up with it?
Correct. I was hoping Mike would be here to go over all the details.
Well, he's looking, Dan, I have a question here that I wrote down for you. The, when this company looks at our benefit package and everything, does all these come in and, like, retirement contributions, life and health, all that is part of the package?
Yes,
Okay, very good. Very good.
So you got it plan for what?
Yes.
What?
You want to know what, he gave me a list. So Santiago ditch cleaning, Deer number 16, drainage ditch improvements, Unit 5 ditch cleaning, Unit 8 ditch clearing and grading, West Cortez.
Okay, you got, can he not give us a 2 or 3 year plan?
He should, yeah, he should.
And the same thing with roads?
And I think there is a roads plan out there that shows what they're gonna do, but we'll get that incorporated in the budget next.
I mean, what would be fair to ask?
I would anticipate that your new operations manager would be able to give you a plan.
Yeah, I mean, we should know, yeah. As soon as we are, okay.
And along with the discussion of the new operations manager, one of the things we discussed in my one-on-one was that I think we need to budget for an overlap in that operations position for October, November, December. We'll probably have both of them working at that point.
This is just a double one. There's one that I have to ask you on. Facilities, repair and maintenance in the recreation area. It's 45,000. Planning 50% increase. I'm just curious. Not a lot of dollars.
I think that was to replace this floor.
A good chunk of
A
it.
good chunk of it, yes.
And, well,
We had talked
You
about.
know, right, pertaining to this building,
our little buddies who were in the summer camp busted up a bunch of tiles. We have found tile that closely approximates what's down there, and we have gone in and replaced them. I don't know, what, 5 boxes?
Yeah, there was a lot.
30 or 40 of them. So that has been done. We won't need to do that. We will eliminate that from the next pass of the budget. I can't remember how much it was for that.
The floor's already been repaired. What he's saying is that we're not going to have to, there's probably 30 some odd or more tiles up in this area that have been replaced. They were scrapped from, like you said, from summer camp and fitness classes.
I'm gonna change that 45,000.
Yes.
I'll check for.
We just redid the tile last week, so.
It looks very nice.
Check the grout line and you'll see which ones are new.
Yeah.
You can tell those who walk with their head down whether they,
Yes.
So page 37 pretty much wraps the general fund up with the capital request. $545,000 in the budget for capital. Just to go over what those items are. The first one is a $40,000 assessment software system upgrade. $350,000 for the playground, $40,000 for the tennis resurfacing project, $30,000 for a truck, a security truck, and $85,000 for equipment in the roads and drainage department. Is there any other questions inside the general fund? Or recommended changes? So
again, this is making the assumption we got no RPAC funds for any kind of grant, so for the playground.
And again, because of the accounting, it's gonna be the expense either way, it's just anything we recover would be revenue that can go back into the reserves.
The generators go where? In the general fund?
The generators are under utilities because the majority of the generators operate the lift stations, well water plant, wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
There's only 2 building generators, one at the maintenance building, district office. I don't believe we have them.
So we're gonna, I'm jumping ahead. So
Yeah.
we're gonna take this new information and apply it to the budget.
Correct.
Because obviously.
Correct. We're gonna update it, yes.
Correct, yes.
And you're gonna complete that vehicle list and schedule before we actually spend any money on the equipment.
Yes, sir.
So jumping to page 42, we'll go ahead and jump into the utility fund. So the utility fund right now is budgeted at $2.7 million in revenue, only 1.6 in expenses, which gives it $1.1 million in excess for capital. We're only spending $307,000 in normal operating capital, typical capital that we would say doesn't include the meter system replacement. So that gives that fund a surplus of $804,050. For this first pass, I mentioned in my memo, there is no proposed increase for this first go round. We're waiting for Florida Rural Water to come back with their recommendations so we can build that in, present that to the board, and then you guys can have some input as to what you want to take in the recommendation and implement. On our one-on-ones, we did discuss on page 43, the recommended change or addition to possibly either limit service times for utilities to residents or charge an after-hours fee. So I'm not sure if you guys want to discuss that or approve to charge a fee or approve a cutoff time today, or
I didn't have that conversation.
I did, and I'm one who, before I was on the board, experienced a late night alarm on my lift. And I can tell you from a resident's perspective, when that alarm goes off, especially if you don't know what it means and what it does, having somebody come out, even in the middle of the night, is a big help. So I'm not one who would support cutoff, but I certainly support a fee.
This is only in the area of the low pressure sewer system. And if you live in Manor Hill, you don't have that. If you live over in the preserve, you do. Each one of you have a holding tank that has a float and a pump in it. And you also have a little red light on the back of your house that if the float fails or whatever in the middle of the night, it's gonna go off and it's gonna have a siren with it as well. So we need to have someone on call to say, here's how you turn it off at midnight, but we don't necessarily need to come out and replace your float at midnight.
Yeah, we talked about a decal for the outside of the box so that we can,
Right.
you know, homeowner can go out and silence it until morning.
Yep. We should have that.
And I, regardless of what we do, I still think that's a good idea that it's put out there so you know how to control that box in the event that it goes off.
and then we may build something into, typically, if you're a brand new homeowner, you just built your house, you probably know it's back there, your contractor's probably gonna give you a heads up, but even with the district, we give out a new resident packet.
Doesn't happen.
They should.
Doesn't happen, guaranteed.
So in our new resident packet, we put in some information saying, you know, especially if it applies to them, you have a low pressure system, this is what it means, this is how it works. There could be an alarm, this is how to turn it off.
Yeah, we do have a package and we should include that in.
So I guess
Not that they'll read it, but we can.
so we'll discuss internally with
Decal's a good idea.
the utility department and figure out a time that we recommend for cutoff. And then when the fee would be applicable, and then bring it back to the board for approval within the rate schedule. Maybe it's after 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. There's a charge.
I'd be fine with after 5 p.m. Again, as somebody who needs the service, I don't expect every service to be free.
Wait for the minute.
No questions on the revenues?
I
clerk gives us a certain bit. Yeah, 48. You got lift station repairs for 100,000. You got repairs and maintenance to water for 100,000. You got repairs and maintenance to sewer for 85,000. Are we over repairing? Are we in that much trouble? I mean, we're repairing a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm just,
We got a lot of old stuff.
huh?
We got a lot of old stuff.
I don't do that, we have that much.
Yes,
Then we're gonna need to repair it.
yes.
I think what we're finding is that we've had a lot of deferred maintenance, and we've got to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought we're repairing stuff and we're going on maintenance programs now. Don't even realize any kind of savings or something,
We should, but I'm not sure we're gonna get it next year. It should be in years following as we get things caught up to where they ought to be.
What is medium and low pressure pumps?
That's the pumps that we were referring to in the tank. So every time a district resident can call that tank or that pressure pump fails, the district will come out and replace that pump for you, give you a 1-year warranty. It's a $400 charge for that pump. So once again, you see the expense on the bottom, there's a revenue line item that offsets it. That covers the cost for it.
Why did we not have that before? All of a sudden it's popped up.
Well, they used to account for it in repairs and maintenance sewer. So 2 years ago, I believe Israel said, you know what, I don't want this to be part of my repair and maintenance. This is a completely separate line item. Let's account for it separately. So we added a line item in the budget 2 years ago to help him track exactly how many we were doing, how many we were buying, and keep trying to make sure the revenues were in line with what we were replacing.
Why did it jump from 45 to 60?
That's been because of the new construction. So meters and low pressures are in that same category.
Those are new water meters.
Correct. So new construction went up, so we had to bump it from 45 up to the 60. It's been consistent from 60 to 60 the next 2 years. Last year was a little bit higher.
That's for buying the pumps?
Buying the pumps, correct. Our cost of buying the pumps and buying the meters for new construction.
The homes that, I'm just curious, the homes that are being built, we're gonna have to replace their meters.
They're new meters. The ones that are being built, this is the new meters that are being.
Well, the ones that are, the ones that are being built now, what meters we putting in? The
Put
battery,
them together because that's what we got everywhere else.
not the same ones?
Correct.
The same ones, and they'll all be replaced when we replace everything. We're just being consistent. And you're probably gonna have a bunch of them to sell to somebody somewhere, sometime. The issue doesn't seem to be as the meters as much as it does the electronics on the meters. The question as to whether to replace everything deals more with the age of the ones that are typically in the ground now. The guys from Florida Rural Water told me that while they say they should be good for 20 years, you should start a 10-year replacement plan where you replace 10% of them every year. But that's just,
We're gonna replace the whole thing, right?
yes,
We did that on October the 1st.
I didn't know that.
Huh?
I didn't know that.
Would we be able to make sure we kind of do that very quickly when the new year starts?
As fast as we can get it done, yes, sir. All we're waiting on now is Florida Rural Water report. And then we go out for an RFP with the recommended meters. And then as soon as we can get it done, it's not like it's gonna happen overnight anyway. It's gonna take 30, 60 days to replace all the meters once they start. So if we started, we will have the RFP out, I would say, probably within the next 30 days.
So yeah, we have a couple options. The district has the ability to go out for RFP. Go out to RFP, we have to create a scope. You'll have 5 vendors who come to the table, and then we're gonna have to decide or have someone help us decide which is the one we want to go with and why, and which one's best, and warranties, go down that road. We also have the ability, just like we did today with Guardian, where we have another government contract which was issued within the last 12 months, we can piggyback off that. So we do have one. It's the vendor that City of Sebring and Spring Lake uses. They provided us with a contract that we could go off, use that contract and start today if we choose to piggyback off of them. The problem that we're having is we want to make sure that whatever device and system that they give us is going to work for us best. So we have plans to meet with Spring Lake, see their accounting, see how they do utility billing, see how many no reads they're getting, So we're trying to do our due diligence before we come back to the board with that recommendation. Because if not, it's gonna expedite the process probably about a year. By the time we do an RFP, we're talking 3 or 4 months to review the proposals, have the vendors come in and present, look at the numbers, financing, get the contract signed, and then have them mobilized to come have people on site to replace everything. So,
Even though the budget's not approved, we start this now,
Yeah, we're,
right? So that-
yeah, the only thing we're waiting on at this point in time is Florida Rural Water Survey. And then assuming they don't tell us that we shouldn't do the ones in Spring Lake, that there's a better product than that, we're gonna try to piggyback on that. The question there is within the time frame. You have to do it within 12 months, if I remember correctly. And that one is about 15 or 16 months old. Just some questions whether we can get around that by saying, well, it wasn't completed by X date. Bottom line is we're gonna do it as fast as we can get it done, put it that way.
These guys tell us how much approximately it costs, right?
Yes,
And then we just verify it through the RFP.
yes. We'll piggyback on their contract if we can. It would be a lot faster if we can piggyback.
So the good thing with the piggyback as well is, let's say they approve pricing for someone in 2019, they're gonna honor that 2019 pricing, even if COVID or anything's affected that price in 2020, 2021, you're piggyback off that same pricing, so you get it for the same. So it is a benefit. Could it be cheaper? That's the risk of going to RFP and finding out.
And that will be effective. We could expect to have to replace the system every 10 years.
They told us that you should expect to put it in the ground and then in 10 years, start replacing 10% of it on an annual basis. So that you would have a perpetual ongoing, instead of having $1 million worth of meters coming in this year, you'd have 100,000 every year. That was Florida Rural Water's, they call it a circuit rider. Guy was here, that's what he told me.
So up to 20 years, some of the meters.
Some of them. You obviously replace the ones you're having trouble with. The problem we're having is not so much with the meter, it's with the broadcast of the information, which is what's causing us to have to estimate all these things. It's a nightmare for Chelsea and the people over there, but we're gonna have to live with it probably this time next year, I guess. In a best case scenario. But bottom line is, I don't want to make another $1 million mistake. So you guys 5 years having to go through this again, so we're trying to make sure we get the right.
Okay,
So that pretty much rounds out the utility fund. Once again, we did move the water meter system and the irrigation projects into the capital projects fund, and that's 2.95 million. So 100% of what we're dipping into reserves, which is 2.8 million, is being used for those 2 large capital projects. Looks like we really didn't add or take away a whole bunch. We got a 4% increase on assessments, which we'll build in the operations overlap for the 3 months and the Mike Hurley payout, which we know is coming. The generator upgrade, we'll have the memberships for golf next round. I think that's it.
And I increased labor to 4% as well.
The merit increase?
Instead of estimating a 3% increase in labor, I'd estimate a 4%, because we're gonna get this new report and we're dealing with.
Salaries.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
you can do it, but I don't know how it would be affected with the benefit package, and once we get it.
Well,
I mean,
again, we're gonna have more information before we finalize. I'm just saying, for the next pass, I would increase labor, because I can't see 3% being the number that's gonna be in the final budget.
yeah, second piece of that is we know Mike Hurley has a buyout just like Tanya did.
You got it.
It is what it is, Craig. Now, one of the things that I'm going to specifically ask the HR people is to, okay, how do we address this in the future? Because we should have some type of limitation that is palatable to everyone's.
And just to clarify, Mike's won't be as bad Tanya's was only that way because she had a special provision in her contract. The employee manual has been set up where the payout isn't 50% for state contribution on departure. It's lower than that, 25%.
Yeah, it's not as bad.
So, I got something I'd like to bring up before we get. So, I'm looking at the benefits for the board of supervisors. I know this is gonna be. I think we ought to increase the monthly payments of board of supervisors, $500 a month. I also think they ought to get free golf membership like people in the district get. We are, after all, the board of supervisors. And I also think we ought to limit terms to 2 terms. Because I know how we feel about our government in most cases. And I think 8 years on the board, you'll become stale. And it's time for somebody else to take over and give it a new one. I didn't think it was gonna meet this time, that's what I tried.
I think something like this is gonna have to be done if you want people to come to this board.
Yeah, that was.
Because look what we ended up with one person that expressed any interest at all. Well, there was 2. And one went to one meeting and said, I'm not gonna have this going to happen. So I think he brings up a valid point that something has to attract us.
I mean, I got on the recording of the past meeting, I was telling Dan a couple days ago, and I was the 15th person to listen to me. 15.
Yeah.
And then I talked to Percy, when I was over in the office the other day, and I said, it'd be nice to know how many people watch this on Zoom. And she says, I have that information. I said, oh, what is it? There were 6 people who watched it on Zoom, of which 2 of them were sitting in. And so, I mean, the participation from outside the community is non-existent. So I can imagine when somebody says you want to be on the board, nobody wants to deal with it. So that's another reason that I agree with Craig. We've got to figure out a way to get people involved. So I'd like for the board to consider that. I don't know how I go about that. I would like to have a vote on it next meeting, if that's possible.
We can give you options and bring it back to you in the next pass. Perfect. For your edification, I mean, we can have, here's what the effect of going to $500 a month or however you want to do it. We can give the options to you. Obviously, it's your decision.
I like the board to consider.
Okay, so since I won't be here at the next meeting and can't participate via Zoom, I'll give you my opinion now. One is I don't think anybody serves on the board for remuneration, whether it's 300 or 500. I'm serving because I care about what's happening in the community. And my concern with saying, okay, we're going to give you free golf membership, well, that may encourage more golf people. We need more community involvement, not just the golf community is probably the most active community we have here. And we need to get more action from the community at large. And giving a free golf membership is going to be a loss of revenue to the district, but it really isn't going to attract anybody other than golfers to the board.
It's true, you could, there's a lot of different ways to structure it. We'll take a look at it. See if we can come up with some ideas.
Well, apparently it's not been an issue because Omar's never brought it up since I've been here. It never showed up on a budget thing about the supervisor.
Should have built that in on the
I know.
I don't think it's an issue. Frank's point is, nobody's interested in the board.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out a way to get people interested.
I agree. I got lectured yesterday morning from my wife that to get people, valuable people that are interested in serving, I didn't so much agree with her, but she said you need to do something to attract. And she looked at me and she said better people, so apparently she meant me. But I did get that lecture yesterday from my wife.
So come back with some.
As you know, it's fulfilling in a lot of ways and it's a pain.
Yeah.
Behind in a lot of.
And Dan, I was told too that, I don't know if this is true, this is a tangent, that the board of commissioners would have to approve it. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know the answer to that. I'll
Check with that.
certainly do so.
No, the board of commissioners.
I think the county commissioners have to approve any change in compensation.
Okay.
From the supervisors.
Yeah, I think
I
that,
believe I remember that.
yeah.
At one point in time in the past, I believe Wally Murner had suggested the board ought to make a passable. And in terms of the time and effort we put into it, probably not wrong if you're really going to get compensated. But I agree. I served on the board. I would have served for nothing but as fast as I would have for 1,000. So it doesn't matter.
No, I thought it was a non-paying job.
Yeah, I did too, I didn't even know it was paid.
But I do think, Rachel, we should do something to attract qualified people.
I'm open to anything.
Okay, any more discussion? Meeting adjourned.